Is on? Okay, cool. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Basic VC podcast. Try saying that 10 times fast. And yeah, today I am all by myself. Sucks to suck, but you know what happens. Anyways, yeah. Glad to be here. Thank you, Dan. No, thank you, Dan, for being here. I appreciate the effort of showing up. Thank you, thank you. Oh, that's a lot. Okay. I think that's good for the there you go for the thing. Of course, today we got our usual, shenanigans that were supposed to go on and stuff, but I guess I'm just the only one, so I guess I'll try and entertain a crowd of one. Which should be fine, so you could hang out this music in the background, because otherwise this wouldn't have been awkward. But yeah, hopefully everyone's doing good, everyone's doing alright, nice and nice. Anyways, yeah, I kind of want to go over a couple of things here and there, so first and foremost, I want to say thank you guys for supporting me on the short that I made recently. The YouTube short that I made yesterday, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. Sorry. I made it yesterday, and then it was to explain the story. I was playing Fallout 4. Playing Fallout 4 in the morning, and then I tried to visit some settlements here and there, and then I got a message saying that this settlement needs our help and stuff, and I went to it, and I was like, okay, what do we need? We need to set up defense against raiders. So I was like, oh crap, I don't have anything of value or any kind of junk that can help me with that. So I tried my best, and I'm like, okay, is there anything else this person can help me with defenses, because I am bare bones here. And then that's when the conversation started off, like, like, what can I use for defenses? Like, we got enough junk around here to help you out. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll help you with the raiders. And then as soon as I open my mouth, I get blasted. So yeah, that's the story. That's the story of the YouTube short that happened, that popped up. Actually, I wouldn't say it went viral, but it popped up, and 9,000 views is quite something I never reached in this whole VTubing career that I did. But now that I'm here, I'm like, that's insane. That is actually crazy. Like, that is the best piece of news I've heard in a while, actually. So yeah. Oh, anyways, I think you can hear the game. I don't know why. Oh yeah, you can. This sucks. Okay, so I'm gonna have to turn on the music. This is bad. Yeah, because you guys can hear that. Otherwise, I would play a game so badly and stuff, but I guess I can't. I don't have anything downloaded, unfortunately, so I'm gonna have to improvise here. Oh, the outro. You gotta love that. What about this one? Play. This one's fine, actually. This should be fine. Anyways, yeah, I haven't played my PS5 in a while, actually. Yeah, I'm just like sitting here like, damn. Because I've been busy all day long. I've been doing the Fault Boy Dan drawing this whole time. That's that's one thing about it. Because I stayed up until like what time? Like at 3 in the morning. Yeah, I stayed up until like 1 in the morning. I was no 3 in the morning. It was 3 in the morning. I stayed up, and then that's when I stopped the project because I was like, I need to go to sleep. I'm kind of tired here. Oh, right. I do have something. Oh, God, I have to react to this. Oh, man. Okay, so I wouldn't say a friend, but God damn it. Okay, fine. I'll say a friend. So there's a person I collab a couple of weeks ago now. It was for the guards live stream, which it was very funny. I love to play with this person, and then the other ones too, like Venvi, Loon, and Noah. And then I got a message from Loon. So hear this idea. So he says, "So I had an idea for a game show style collab stream / video. The basic concept is I create a few various deranged AI versions of myself, and the contestants have to try to figure out the personality traits I give them based off how they act. Attached to this message is an example of an opening statement from one of these AI. From this point, the contestants would cycle between guessing the characteristics and interacting with them and learning what they can. If I can get enough people for this, it would likely not take place for a few weeks, as there's a decent bit of setup work that needs to be done. But if you're interested, let me know, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. P.S. Don't mind the demon noises; that are 100% normal." Oh, great! That's one way to get my DMs weird. All right, let's hear what this guy has got to say. All right. As I'm listening to this thing, I'm just like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this shit? Lewin, what the fuck is this shit? First and foremost, that's one way to start a sentence with someone. What the fuck is this? What? What am I supposed to do with this? Okay, guess this is range personality. So I guess he's very immensely interesting in chemistry. And then he's obsessed with body parts as well, and I guess he's very excited. I don't know. What the fuck am I supposed to guess from that? Oh, that is creepy. Oh yeah, Celine.
Hello.
Hello, how's it going?
I've just been in here listening to you rant about something.
Yeah. I don't know what I just got DM'd, so yeah, there's that weird experience. Anyways, you're doing alright, all good, and anything new with life?
It's only been a week, so no.
Oh, you never know if a week can change or something. You never know. Even a day can change. Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, I was just saying how the idea of someone suggesting that we're supposed to guess a deranged AI character, how that would be in the file that I got was just the guy doing the voice, and I'm supposed to guess the kind of personality he has. So he mentioned a lot about chemistry, and then hi Ayana.
Hello.
Hello.
Jump scare. Hello.
Ghost
jump scare.
Not as scary as what I got DM just recently.
I can't stay here. I can't stay.
What?
What the hell?
Eh?
What?
Huh?
The what?
Why?
Oh,
Why?
you're back. Okay.
Why? Oh.
Too spooky.
What the heck?
Too spooky. Too spooky.
What?
Huh? Too spooky.
Too spooky.
Wow.
Oh, I see.
Anyway, I'm just dropping in because I just got home and I'm gonna make dinner, but just wanted to see what's going on.
Welcome home. Yes, I was just talking about how I got an idea from a person I collab with, and they sent me a very weird yet interesting voice clip that they made. So basically, the concept is that this guy will make a little contest, and he'll set up deranged AI to write a script for him to read, and it's up to us to guess.
I already hate it. AI, get out of here.
No, wait. It gets a little bit interesting. So it's up to us to figure it out what kind of personalities this deranged AI has. So, the example I got is the guy loves chemistry because he's making a lot of like chemistry jokes, I guess. I don't know. And apparently he's obsessed with dead bodies or bodies in general, body parts. And he's
Walter White.
Huh?
Walter White.
Deranged
scientist. Dexter.
Probably Dexter, most likely. I don't know. Seemed a little bit
like
of a.
That the first example you thought it was Walter White.
Yeah, like
chemistry. He's a chemistry teacher.
He's a chemistry teacher, but he doesn't just say puns out of the blue.
I guess he does count as a mad scientist.
And then somehow in the freaking voice clip, I hear like everyone should show up their tone abs for some reason. I'm like, okay.
All right, I'm back in abs.
Abs, okay. You got me. I'm interested. Okay. But yeah, I'm like.
Keep talking.
But anyways,
I was out because of the AI, but the abs.
the abs are back. Okay. Gonna write that down a bit. Okay, cool. Anyways, so yeah, it's
what are you writing down? Ayana likes abs.
No, I'm just making a joke. I'm like joking about how I'm observant. I just write down everything I hear and stuff.
Okay.
Nah. But anyways, yeah, that's what I got sent on my DMs, and I'm like, okay. Apart from the breathing I've
Interesting.
heard at the end of the clip, I'm like, okay, that's what I got.
AI breathing. Wow.
The guy actually, no, it was part of the script. I don't know. It's weird. I don't think I want to show you the audio file for you to listen. So I'm just gonna tell it as much as I can without like creeping anyone else.
Okay.
This guy's name is Loon, so go figure, I guess.
That's fitting.
Yeah, it's quite fitting. But anyways, that's my day. How's your day, Ayana?
Good. I was shopping again. I finally got a dress after like 3 weeks.
Oh, nice.
So
This
what have you
is
been
what,
wearing
like-
other than
What?
if you haven't had a dress for all this time? What have you been?
Oh, no, I needed like a fancy dress. But then it's like, this is what like I feel like guys don't understand about dresses. Like it has to be fancy, but it can't be too fancy. And it's like, I don't know. It's just so hard for like an event dress. It's like I don't want to look like I'm
Well,
going
how fancy
to a
of an
wedding.
event are we talking about here?
It's like a gala type thing, like fundraising. That's too much detail, but I think it's okay to say that. But yeah, it's for people that pay money to be there. So it's like, okay, I should probably wear kind of formal, but it's also
Oh my
like
gosh,
I don't
she's
want to
going
look
to the
like I'm
Met Gala.
going. No, I'm not.
Okay.
Okay, now that would
That
be
would
way
be- yeah.
harder to dress for.
Yeah, extremely fancy, but very like revolutionary or like outstanding, like
Yeah.
among the rest.
I heard a single ticket was like $750,000,
Well,
Oh
yeah,
my
rich people
God.
stuff.
or was it
That's-
$75,000 or something like that?
Oh, that
Either way, that's
whoa.
insane.
That's still insane, but yeah.
But I
So-
guess that checks out.
So something fancy, but not too fancy to stand out. Got it.
Yeah, so I ended up, it's like this black dress that has this like tulle on the top. So it's like, you know, simple black, but then like the shape is kind of fancy. So
Oh,
it's,
there
like-
you go.
Yeah, that's what I went with. There's
Yeah.
like so many. I'm gonna like girl talk, but like so many of the dresses are just like so floral or like sparkly and like
I've noticed that a lot too.
uncomfortable looking.
Yeah. It's like a lot of like sparkles or like those like plastic things that just shine against the light and everything else. Or like those have
Yeah, it
glitter,
looks-
and then like a bunch of the dresses are also like what, floral too, like you said. And I'm like, what is this? My grandma's dress or what?
I know.
Like,
I
it's
don't want to look like a
weird.
grandma.
Uh,
But yeah, I finally found something I'm happy with, so I can finally stop shopping.
At last, a balance that suits you well. So hey, Kara, and I'll be there soon. Okay.
Cool. But yeah, I'll probably stick around for like maybe like 10-15 more minutes because I gotta make dinner.
Okay. What do
I
you,
I mean,
what do
you
you have
can you can cook while you're still in the Discord.
But,
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
Well, I have
you
to
could,
have my
but
phone
do you
and
want to
stuff, but-
focus and not burn the kitchen down?
I mean, yeah, that is also. That's
You can always
also
cook with the air
valid.
fryer.
Well, I was gonna make a salad, but I have to cook the chicken.
Oh yeah, the chicken and everything else. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's not actually that hard.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of food photos that I haven't put into the chat yet.
Oh nice.
The food chat makes me so hungry whenever I look at it.
I'm not hungry whatsoever. I just ate beef and broccoli and stuff, and
Oh, nice.
yeah, I got some garlic mashed potatoes. I got cream corn as well, and my mom did like it, so there's
Ooh.
that too. Yeah, from my workplace.
I'm eating salad all week to fit into my new dress.
At least you're eating. Some people have to fast in order to lose weight quickly.
No, that's a complete lie. I actually went to like Shake Shack last week, so.
Oh. I mean, you're still trying it. You
Now,
gotta treat yourself every once in a while. Yeah.
Today I'm eating a salad.
It's not like anyone's gonna look at you. It's like, wow, you're too fat for this dress. Like, no one's gonna do that.
They'll notice. They'll be like, that girl ate salad last week.
Oh my god, I smell lettuce. Salad girl.
Better than being known as the Shake Shack girl.
The Shake Shack girl, no, yeah.
She gets salads, but I Shake Shacks.
That is true.
Oh my god, you're
You
even
get
worse
the
than I
burger
thought.
like without the bun.
It could be worse. Could be getting a salad at McDonald's.
Oh god. What is even the point of going to McDonald's if you're just gonna get a salad?
Even the whole super size me thing proved that the salad has a little bit more sugar than it should.
Yeah.
Like what?
But like, it's not even. It would actually be cheaper to just buy a box of salad from like the grocery store and like make it yourself.
Yeah, just
at
make
that
it yourself.
point.
Just get like either spinach, lettuce, maybe a couple tomatoes,
Yeah.
dressing. Like it's so simple. You can do that. Hell, even get like fried chicken or roasted chicken, dismantle the thing, slice it up, and then just spread it all over the salad. It's easy. Oh, and don't forget the croutons.
Yeah. Yeah, gotta have the crunchy stuff.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Also, I'm looking at the food chat and oh, that's interesting. Is that pho?
Yep.
Ah.
Ooh.
I haven't eaten pho in a while though. Last time I tried it, I liked it. That's the only soup I tolerate.
Oh my god, soup noodle. What?
Huh. That is crazy. So it's pretty nice that you found your dress, which is great. So you don't have to worry about like last minute shopping and stuff.
Yeah, it was because I'm going next week, and it was like coming down to the wire here. I gotta. It's now or never.
Wait, you're going
You
to
gotta
New
find
York next
something.
week?
Yeah, it's next
Oh,
week.
I thought it was this week for a second. I'm like, huh? Is this the trip? or-
No.
Okay, right.
No,
so-
it's next week. Well, I'm preparing for stuff this week,
Okay,
so
okay.
I gotta like.
got it.
And I have to start packing, and then it's Tofu's birthday this weekend, so that's why I'm not streaming.
Oh, wait, when is it? I gotta make a note of that actually.
It's May
May
the
the 4th.
4th. Star Wars
Oh.
Day.
I forgot. No wonder I was like, wait a
Yeah,
minute,
yeah.
it's peculiar. Let me see.
But yeah, I had to. We're doing a lot of stuff over the weekend, so
That's
cleared my whole
awesome.
weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get Korean barbecue.
Oh, that is sweet. Wait, are you gonna go into the restaurant itself and cook it, or?
No, they
yeah,
cook it
it's
for
one
you.
of those.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you-
Or wait, actually, I think the place we're going, they do cook it for you. I think it's like one of those fancier ones.
Most places they cook it for you.
Not the place that I went
yeah,
to though.
I guess it depends, because if you go to like Shabu
guess they were
Shabu,
being
then
cheap
it's
about
like,
Yeah.
yeah, you do the labor.
I mean, yeah, I've been to 2 Korean barbecues before. One in my city and one all the way to Burbank, I think, with a couple of friends, including Alex. And the one I went in Burbank was at Do Yourself, but it was like one of those like sketchy places or like sketchy areas where you go into the buildings and stuff. And then it's late at night, and so we went to the barbecue place or into the Korean barbecue, and it was phenomenal. Like the pork was amazing, the meat was also good, and then I just kept getting more and more helpings of meat and stuff, and it was just great. I did get spiced up by the pork, but it was still good though. I like it. Yeah.
Spicy.
Yeah, spicy pork. I love that. It's fun.
Yeah, like the curry, like the what's it called? Gochujang.
Oh, I forgot
You
about the
like
name,
that?
but yeah, I guess so.
It's the
The red sauce.
Ah.
Was it all you can eat?
I don't think it was, or no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't all you can eat.
Okay.
No. Although I think for the one in my city, I think it's all you can eat.
Yeah, all you can
That
eats are
is
not great.
dangerous.
It's not as good.
Yeah, for the flavor.
Yeah, the definitely like the quality of meat because they're like, oh, you can order as much as you want, so they'll give you cheaper
Yeah.
cuts.
Yeah.
But then I always end up getting too much if it's all you can eat.
Oh,
Are you gonna
really?
be going to New York City's Koreatown for Korean barbecue?
Oh, I don't know, because if I'm already going this weekend, I don't feel like I went 2 weeks in a row of Korean barbecue. That sounds like
Oh,
a
yeah.
You're
lot.
going this weekend. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't planned where I'm going in New York yet, but I'm for sure gonna get like pizza,
Oh, probably get
Pizza?
some
bagel.
get some pizza or something. Like the Bronx
Yeah.
is pretty good known for the pizzas and stuff.
Yeah. This time I'm staying like close-ish to Times Square, so
Ooh, that's
it's-
gonna be expensive.
yeah. But I could always like subway to like, either north or south, but yeah.
Oh, hopefully the trains aren't too crowded, or they close down the synagogue for the Jews. Which that was wild. That was a wild story still.
Yeah, who knows what crazy things will happen in New York next week.
You thought the rats were hunting the sewers? No, it's the Jews. It's in the synagogue. They're hiding there. Next thing you know, the
you're talking about
buildings are
the-
fake.
That's even for that kind of news, that's kind of wild for New York.
Even for New York.
Yeah, even for New York, that's just crazy. So it sounds like a Florida man kind of news, but it's not. It's New York man.
New York, man.
You'd think like Florida man would be hunting gators down the sewers, but no, it's New York and it's just Jewish people.
Yeah.
Especially in that video too, where you see a man just coming out of the sewer tunnel or the sewers, from a hole in the floor, and he just runs away because the guy's recording him. And then that's gone viral to the point where I heard a parody version of like someone trying to sing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle song, but they just put Jewish like things into it.
Wow.
And they let us say Torah power. I'm like, oh god. That was hilarious. But yeah, hopefully nothing bad happens around New York whatsoever. Hopefully New York is good. I wish I could go there someday. Maybe I will. Cross country road trip, maybe, most likely.
You should. It's definitely, it seems like a place that's fun to go for like vacation and not to live.
Vacation. When I think about that, I just think a lot of Las Vegas and the amounts of times that I have to walk everywhere. Now that I think about it,
New York, you have to walk a lot too. But...
Yeah, you have to walk a lot in New York, but it's a lot of sightseeing and stuff, taking lots of pictures and things. Yeah.
It's fun to walk around in New York because everything like looks really pretty, like all the buildings and stuff, architecture.
As a fellow New Yorker, I will say, when you're walking around, make sure you have that resting bitch face on at all times.
Oh yeah.
Really? Oh yeah. So they don't really target you for being a tourist.
Yes.
No, yeah, like I totally got catcalled last year when I went one time. That
Whoa.
was interesting. I was like, New York. I'm walking over here.
Hey, what up? I see a pretty customer here. You're real or not? I want to touch you to find out. Like, what the? Okay, then.
That's a lot.
It was a construction worker too.
Typical construction worker. It's nice. Yeah, they get the secret view on top of the sea view person. It's nice too. That's funny. I can tell also line you're playing Helldivers 2.
Yes, I am.
Based on the
Ah.
fact that I saw your status, and I'm like, ooh, okay, I see you. But yeah. What else am I gonna say before I forget? Before I'm too starstruck to even remember. Oh yeah, how goes the Resident Evil, by the way?
Oh, it's fun, but I keep getting lost because it doesn't have the mini map like in Resident Evil 4. So that's why when Monks was like, sorry for backseating, I was like, no, please
That-
just tell me where to go. I
That
don't
makes
know
sense.
how to. I don't know where to go. I'm lost. I'm
I
a
feel like-
child.
I feel like that's because you are.
Directionally challenged.
I wouldn't
I guess.
say that. I wouldn't say that. I would say that you're Dora the Explorer
when it
still.
comes to games, I'm so directionally challenged. Like in real life, I can remember landmarks really easily if I'm like walking towards them physically.
Yeah.
But if I'm like running around in a game, I don't remember anything. I don't know why.
I guess it's because
No,
it's the
you-
concept of like when you play a game, there's no real consequence of you forgetting some stuff. Whereas in real life, like you gotta remember where you're going, because otherwise you might either get kidnapped or you might die.
Well,
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, there's also the thing where men in general tend to be more linear when it comes to directions, and females are more landmark based.
Mm.
I think-
I mean, that helps
think
it a
that's
lot,
both good.
actually.
Like, I'm sure, like Ayana could tell you, like if the directions were just based on like go to this, you see this, you make a right at when you see this, she would know the directions. But like men in general, we want the street, turn on this street, turn on that street.
I guess
That's
so.
probably really true because like whenever like my mom drives too, she's like, okay, if I see, like, I know to turn right when I see the Whole Foods or something like that.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because usually either men will say like, okay, you gotta turn to First Street, you gotta go to Second Street, and then make sure to go into Fourth Street, not Third Street. Whereas, yeah, I can hear my mom saying like, okay,
Yeah,
it's
I
around the
wouldn't
corner of
remember.
the CVS, around the corners of the mall or something.
Yeah, that's so true. Because if you told me the street names, I wouldn't remember anything.
Yeah,
But if
honestly.
you say like, oh, the mall, I know exactly where it is.
Yeah, no, I have to rely on a map actually, since when I don't know most of the directions of my city whatsoever. I just get drove around and that's it. But if I'm gonna get driving again, I'm gonna have to have a map just in case, and then get used to the entire layout of the city. Eventually, I'll be able to travel further down SoCal or even north or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
For now,
Well,
though.
I mean, SoCal, like LA or SoCal driving in general is like, well, it's scary.
No, yeah, I can tell, and I've drove like through the freeways before, and in fact, it is kind of scary going like over 60 miles per hour on the 101 and everything else, and trying not
Yeah.
to like literally go in front of someone when you're trying to exit off the freeway.
Oh
Or,
my
like, you're
God,
trying to go
merging
into the-
lanes in LA is like my nightmare.
No, yeah, especially no. Well, if the high amounts of traffic is not gonna get you, then the amount of like traffic in general and trying to swerve around, trying not to miss the exit, will get you eventually. And yeah, Alex hates this too. He hates driving. He recently drove his parents all the way to the airport too, and on the way back, it took him like almost
Oh my
3
God.
hours.
Okay, yeah, airport is like a whole other like challenge
Yeah.
in and of itself. Like even
I'm lucky.
Even
I
for
live
me,
pretty
'cause
close to-
SFO Oh, you do? Oh, that's
I
nice.
live pretty close to JFK actually.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
That's awesome. But yeah, like I had to pick my parents up from the airport like the last month or whatever, and like that, the amount of times I got cut off like of people trying to get to the curb to like pick other people off up, it was like
You gotta be
insane.
ambitious with that though, because you know you cannot afford to to like let anyone pass. You gotta be ambitious with it.
I
You gotta
know.
be aggressive. But at the same time, though, if you're ambitious, you're gonna get reckless, and if you're reckless, you're gonna
Yeah,
crash.
I don't want to crash. Yeah,
I get
I'm
your
so
fear.
Nervous.
I get it, yeah, and I can tell why you hate it. It sucks, but you gotta be aggressive with it, and you're gonna be confident, because
Yeah.
otherwise, you know, you have to wait a
I
while longer.
I don't get you guys. I don't get you guys. I'm a New York driver.
Even I never went to the airport, I never drove to the airport, but I can tell because of the anxiety, because you know I drove before and I know what it's like to like, you know, get like taken over, or like, oh hey Robin,
Hello.
Hello.
we're just talking about driving to the airport and stuff, and yeah, I'm just
Anxiety.
the anxiety. Yeah, I know a lot of things about anxiety, but yeah, it is tremendous in general to drive. Even
Yeah.
everywhere else to drive, it's just anxiety inducing, because there's aggressive drivers, there are drivers who are careless, who look on their phones, or there's just drivers who like don't care whatsoever and they're just like swarming around the place or something. Like, that's scary.
Dude, yeah, I really rarely ever like honk at anyone if they cut me off, but when I went to the airport, I actually did.
Well, yeah.
There's this jerk in like a van that just like sped past me and cut in front of me. I was like, what the fuck? Like,
Were they going
I'm
slow?
just trying to pick up my parents.
Oh my goodness.
And then they had
I
to
don't know.
stop right in front anyway because everyone was, you know, it was stopped because everyone's getting in line. So
Yeah.
they just like wanted to get cut in front of me to like get that one space like ahead of me. Like, why? For what?
Oh, I
Yeah,
used
I
to take a
don't know.
while.
I don't know what's worse, driving to or driving out of the airport.
Driving out of the airport is easy.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
driving,
out isn't too bad.
driving
for
out of the
SFO
airport,
Depends on
yeah.
the
at least.
airport,
driving
yes.
into the airport, because you need to find parking in order to pick up anyone who you're picking up from the airport. Getting out though,
Yeah,
is
and
just,
then
yeah.
the security people, or like the people with like the vest on there, like directing traffic and stuff, they're like yelling at you and like
Yeah,
or
I love-
not yelling at you specifically, but like yelling at everyone, and like, yeah, it's so
See,
stressful.
this is why I have it easy. I live 30 minutes from the airport. So
I
when
thi-
the people get off the plane, within 30 minutes, I can pick them up.
let me see.
And
I
they're
think
usually
it's
out
so
of the
nice.
I
office
think
from
I
about
live
5:30.
nearby an airport too. Let me see. Oh, yep. How long is that trip? Oh, an hour. Never mind. Screw that. The nearest one's in
But
Burbank.
even if you live close, don't you still have to like deal with all the like
Yeah.
traffic like
No, yeah,
at the
obviously.
pickup curb? Because
Yeah.
it's like it's always insane.
Not only
Actually,
do you-
I will say that it's actually not that bad for JFK. You at most have to wait like 2 minutes leading up to the pickup terminal.
Mm.
Mhm.
Actually,
The,
yeah.
uh,
Now that I think about it, the terminals did seem like further apart than they were at SFO. Like
Mhm.
last time I went.
Yeah.
The airport. I think I'm probably spoiled because I've gone to the airport a lot to pick up friends who were coming in to visit. So it's just I'm kind of just used to going in there. Plus, we had a parking garage, which helped a lot. So yeah, I think I was just kind of used to it because I used to before I married my wife. You know, she and I dated long distance, and she'd fly in. And
Oh, wow.
so it was like every few months or so, I'd be picking her up from the airport or something, or picking up a friend from the airport. So it's, I don't know. I guess I was just used to it. But there were times when it was just like, oh my gosh, you know, at the very beginning of it all, you know, when I started doing it, I was like, oh gosh, getting in here is difficult, but also like getting out of it is difficult. And then sometimes you take the wrong turn and then you end up getting lost, and it's just like, oh.
Yeah.
But once
It
once I got used to it, it was not too bad. And this was the BWI airport in Baltimore. So
Okay.
I will
that's
say
what I
that
needed there.
nowadays there are parking lots called cell phone lots,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
you can.
Yeah,
which
SFO
are
has that
outside of the
too.
airport, which are outside the airport.
Hmm.
It should be free parking, but you can bring your car there early, and then once the
Yeah, because
person is
they'll
ready.
yell at you if you like
Yeah.
stop at the curb for too long.
Yeah.
To wait.
To be honest, I see a lot of cars just like parked on the side of the highway leading into the airport.
Mhm.
And they're not really
Yeah.
supposed to do that.
Well, that's
kinda
great
ridiculous.
for like quick drop-offs, dude, but just don't leave it there for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I'm just used to going into the. It's just easier for me to use the parking garage. So
No, I get it. I get it.
there's parking. You don't have to worry about trying to get out and having somebody clip your door off when they're driving by.
Oh
Ugh.
my god, yeah, that's the worst.
Oh,
All
God.
the crap with all the shuttles and everything. It's just
Yeah.
easier.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But if I was getting dropped off at the airport, because I'd also do a lot of flying out and whatnot, I just have them drive me up to the curb and just let me out there, and I'd get my luggage and go inside. But yeah. But it was just easier for me to drop off at the parking garage, and it also gives me the time to kind of see them off properly. Then it's we take one last walk to the airport here together before we have to say goodbye. So
Honestly, yeah.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, that's very no.
well, it sucks now because prior to I remember the procedure prior to 9/11, and you actually were able to go up to the actual terminal and actually see them coming
Whoa.
off the plane. Now you can't do that. Now you have to wait. You can't go past the security check now.
Yeah, TSA.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy to think that it used to be that way.
Yeah, and so I'd be able to sit there and kind of wait at that terminal with them or whatever. So
At the
so
gate?
that'd give me
Yeah.
an extra hour or so while we wait for the plane to come in and get ready. You can't do that anymore. Now it's okay, I guess I'm gonna sit here and wait for you at the before you get checked in. And then I gotta see you off at the TSA and bye.
Yeah.
It's hard, especially when that person is the person you're dating, and that was the hardest part for me doing the long distance dating was having to say goodbye. So-
I see.
Yeah.
But luckily
that's rough.
I don't have to do that anymore because I married
Yeah.
the girl. So
There you go. What a
Aw.
successful long distance relationship story.
Yes, I know that it's not something you hear a lot of. Sometimes long distance relationships don't last, but I say if you get into one, the easiest thing to do is just communication, and be friends with her for a while. Be friends with them for a while, because I don't know, it helps to build that relationship. You get to because I don't know. I'm rambling. Sorry.
Oh, you're
But
fine. No.
Don't worry.
I find that when we were, talking and whatnot, talking about common interests and everything, it was just so much easier to, and now we can talk about things without just, and instead of just sitting there in awkward silence, so we have something to talk about because of that. So it's good practice for when you're together and can't find anything else to talk about. So
Yeah.
That's-
Common interests always help
That's beautiful.
for
yeah.
sure.
but
Oh man.
anyway.
And then there are the cats.
Yeah, that's my cats. They're meowing. That's probably time for this.
I heard of the cat. I was like, oh wait, is that a cat here? Oh, that's not part of the relationship. What are you doing?
Yeah.
The cats will take
No,
over.
The cats are part of the relationship, whether you want them to be or not.
Tuh.
Once you have cats, they involve themselves in every aspect of your life.
Yeah, they rule
As
your
you
life.
know, as you know,
Did
you
you
don't choose
have
the
the
cats. The
cats?
cats choose you.
Yeah. Did you choose the cat, or like, when you married your wife, did you like gain
Well,
custody of cats?
well, before I married her, I was strictly a dog person, only because my dad and my nephew were allergic to cats.
That
So
makes sense.
Same.
we couldn't have like any kind of cat hair at all. Otherwise, my nephew would like break out in hives or whatever.
Yeah, that's
And
me.
he had to have like an EpiPen or whatever nearby just to make sure he
Yeah.
didn't like suffocate.
Yeah, allergies is
You know,
serious.
but I mean, my wife owned a lot of animals when she lived with her parents. She's had dogs, cats, birds, doves, lovebirds,
Aw.
different, parakeets, things like that. And also she's owned ferrets, fish,
Oh.
and I think
Ferrets
she
are
had a
so
hamster, but
cute.
she had a hamster, but she didn't really
I
care
love
for the
hamsters.
hamster because it kept biting her or whatever. I think she's like,
Aw.
I think the hamster was like like one of the things where you have like the school pet, and then you take the school pet home and kind of take care of it for the weekend or whatever. You volunteer for it.
Oh, okay.
But she's had a lot of, and she's also had rats. So
Oh.
Cool.
and so she was a big animal lover, and it was one of those things where it's like, if I wanted to date her, one of the prerequisites was I had to love animals. And because she remembers, she tells me this story of this time where she was like talking to somebody online, and they were getting along, getting on pretty good, and he had a good rapport with them and a lot of common interests. And then she like mentioned animals, and he was like, I don't really care for animals. And then all interest for him just dropped immediately.
As it should.
You
as
know,
it
that's
should.
that's a deal breaker.
That's a red flag
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
But so I didn't have a problem with that. I was a big animal lover. Like I said, I own dogs. I have dogs in my family since before I was born, I think.
Mm.
And I kind of wanted a cat when I was growing up, but I kept on being told, no, you can't have a cat because your dad's allergic. And I'm like, okay. And they gave me like the 100 excuses as to why we can't have a cat. Like
Mhm.
cats will claw the furniture, cats are messy, blah blah blah. But when I moved out and I got married, we actually were married before we got any pets whatsoever. We lived with with her brother for a little bit before we found an apartment. And the neighborhood that I lived in, I think I've told this story before, where the neighborhood that we lived in was really dumb with not getting their cats spayed and neutered.
Oh.
And so we'd have like a feral cat
Uh-oh.
population all over the neighborhood.
Oh no.
And there was a
Free
cat.
cats, yay.
Yeah. It's like,
Oh,
you want a cat? You got the literal pick of the litter here. But there was a cat. The neighbors called him Tiger, which is yay, but it's also a very common name for tabby cats. Try something a little more original, guys. Come on. But so there was a cat named Tiger, and then we think she was like a tag-along sister. She always followed him around. So my wife decided to call this cat Copycat. She used to follow her little brother along all over the place, and she also followed my wife home. And so my wife was trying to get both of the cats, the male and the female, and she was gonna get them fixed and everything, but Tiger just happened to be the neighborhood favorite. And we brought the cat in, and they were happy together. And then the neighbors kept on being like, "Where's the cat at? We want the cat. Please release the cat." And they would get kind of aggressive about it. So we just,
Release
so
the
we
cat.
eventually had to we eventually had to let the cat out again. Cat never got fixed because
Aw.
over here the shelters and the clinics and whatnot, they had if you wanted your cat taken care of, you had to put it on a waiting list, and the waiting list was like 6 months long.
Oh God, no.
Wow.
Just because there were just so many cats and so many people trying to take care of the feral cat problem. So we put the cat out and let the cat, be free again, and then he just sort of wandered off, and I think it was mostly just because there's just so much competition that he didn't want to be in that neighborhood anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, I didn't blame him, because who would want to be around these people? But, so they just, and then they came up to our door and were like, "So where's the cat at? I thought you let the cat out. Where's the cat? And you're lying to us. Where's the cat?" And we're like, "We gave him back to you guys. You tell me where the cat is." But we ended up keeping Copycat, and that was my first cat. And she was very shy at first, but she kind of grew a liking to me, and she cuddled me, and she was like, it's like if I could ever have a cat that was an ideal first cat for me, where it was like, this is your indoctrination into cats. This is your first foray into being a cat dad. This was the cat, because she was like jumping on my shoulders and rubbing
you got
against
brainwashed,
me.
my dude.
And so yeah, it was like love at first sight. And then the other cat, Scruffles, she came about because, again, the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I forgot to mention, when we were dealing with Tiger, their thing was like, "Here, if you give us Tiger, we'll give you this." And they just basically like set into my sister-in-law's arms this little baby kitten. They were just like, "Here, have this cat. We'll take Tiger back." And it's just
Literal cat distribution system.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, this cat was just really, really tiny, but she eventually grew into this, very wiry, very muscular jungle cat, and she was kind of this scruffly thing, so we called her Scruffles. So we have Copycat, and then we have Scruffles. And we got them fixed. My wife took them down to a place that she knew down in the valley, and she had a family vet that she was very familiar with, because she took care of all of her cats and stuff down there. She also dealt with a lot of like roaming cats in her neighborhood as well, and there was like cats that always like flocked to her door because they knew where the love and the food were.
Yeah.
So they knew where they knew where to get it. And so she got, so they were able to they have this family vet that was able to get them spayed and neutered, get them spayed. They're both female. And and the rest is history here. And now I've got Copycat Bunny kicking my arm because I'm rubbing her belly. And it's just, I'm glad that we got them out of that. By the time we got Copycat into our home, it wasn't long after that when she had her first heat. And she was miserable, and the cats outside were flocking to the door, being like, "I didn't know there's a cat in there." And I'm like, "Go away." I had to be like the shotgun dad, being like, "This is my daughter, leave her alone." But it was nuts. So, but we're glad that we got him out of that because the neighbors are just, my brother-in-law's neighbors are just trash.
Oh.
And I'm just glad that they're away from all that because they had I remember they had a dog, and this dog must have been in its 20s, and it was still having puppies.
Oh
Oh.
my
And
god.
I'm just sitting here like,
Wow.
why is your 20-year-old dog having puppies? Why are you letting your dog
He's
out,
doing
your
some
20-year-old
work.
dog out so they can have puppies?
That's
He's a player.
wild.
A player. Don't question his methods.
I guess. I don't know. It's just and there was another incident. It was kind of like traumatic because they had a kid, and the kid's name was Johnny, and I was just hanging out in my room there, and all of a sudden we hear this screech of tires. We go out, and the kid was hit by somebody outside by a car, and it was a mother and her children, and they didn't, the mother and the mother was just not. The child was like running out into the street because nobody like monitors their kids in this family.
Oh,
Like
I hate
nobody has,
those. Yeah.
it's one of those families like
Ooh.
it's 3 in the afternoon. Do you know where your kids are? Nope.
Jesus.
Nope.
But so little background: Johnny's mother is a druggie.
Oh.
And Johnny's grandmother is like the matriarch of the family, so she kind of like takes care of everybody. And so my brother-in-law goes out there, and he was in the Boy Scouts, and he had some training with like first aid. So he went out there and was trying to do the preliminary stuff, the mouth to mouth and everything like that before trying to do that because he was unconscious. I think he had like I think either his hip or his leg was broken.
Oh.
And he was just it was a pretty bad thing, and he was unconscious, and my brother was like giving him resuscitation, and the mother comes out Johnny's mother comes out to the mother that's in the car, starts yelling at her, swearing at her, cussing her out right there in front of her kids, and it took like everybody to be like, try to break them up or whatever. So Johnny goes off to the hospital once the paramedics arrive, and Johnny's mother is like, Johnny's grandmother goes up, they took her to a hospital in Fresno.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny's grandmother went with him. Johnny's mother apparently was like hanging around. I guess she has people she went to smoke up or whatever. We suspect she was, she went to do drugs at somebody's house or whatever. And then she comes wandering back, and my brother-in-law is like, why the hell are you even here? Why the hell are you not with your kid right now?
Oh no.
So yeah, it's a messed up neighborhood, and I'm just glad to the bottom of my heart that we have the cats in our family right now, and they're away from all that. Because the cats over there, they're feral. They just, there's kittens all the time, and there's cats that unfortunately don't make it. There's, we've had to we've seen lots of, unfortunately, there's cats that get run over by cars because people don't watch where the hell they're going. And I'm just so glad that we got our cats away from that. They're spayed, they're indoor cats. We don't bring them outside, and they're happy.
Good.
And that,
That's
so
good.
that's the story of Copycat and Scruffles here.
The origin. That's so
So
cool.
yeah, the origin story, the not so
Yeah.
that
The
could
lore.
that could have
Uh,
been that could have been, but ultimately do not turn out tragic backstory. You know.
Thank goodness.
yeah, happy end. That's good.
So
All right, I'm gonna head out
Thank
and
you,
make my
old man
dinner,
Robin, for
and
your
then
stories.
I'll be back on stream later. But yeah, I gotta head out. So
Okay, well, thank you,
it's
Yana,
nice
for
talking to
joining
you
us.
guys. Yeah,
That's
I'll see y'all
awesome.
later.
Thank you. Have fun with the stream.
I'm gonna. Thanks, you guys. Bye.
Bye bye.
bye bye.
God damn, though, that's very crazy that there's people who really genuinely don't care about either their children or the cats or like where they're going or anything else. Like that sounds like the worst
Yeah.
place. Like it should be morally depressing as well to be living in that place.
Yeah, it can be, and I'm glad that in the light of in the face of that, I know that I've had a good upbringing in my life, and I'm glad that
Yeah.
I have that, so I know what good looks like, and I can recognize good from bad. It could be
Yeah.
one thing if I was just like, that's just life. I could have just totally been like that. Instead, I still find myself being, feeling appalled by it. And that's just because I know the difference. I know what good looks like.
Yeah.
And that's because I've had it good. And I know that I've had it good. And I guess you could say I didn't know how good I had it until seeing what bad looked like. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Now I get to count. I guess I get to count my lucky stars. So, yeah, it's just, and it sucks because, well, back then I don't know what he's like now, but Johnny was a decent kid. I mean, he used to go up to my brother-in-law and ask him all about like Pokemon cards or whatever, and Pokemon and stuff like that. So there was some common ground there, but it's just, they don't treat my brother-in-law well. They're sometimes they're rude to him.
Oh man.
They make fun of him, and sometimes there's like, he used to have a dog out in the backyard, and I don't think they tormented him or whatever, but they certainly made him feel uneasy. They would always like shoot off the fireworks and firecrackers and stuff, during like Memorial Day and July the 4th and whatnot. They used to, and they used to scare the dog, and they didn't care. If you went and told them about it, they just laugh in your face. And the kids just use really horrible language because nobody tells them otherwise. So you have like kids who are disrespecting their swearing at their grandmother or their mother or whatever, and back and forth, and it's just like, kids, you're 10 years old, you should not be using that language.
No, yeah, honestly,
really
no one should. Yeah, no. Oh, man.
It's like, I'm probably the last person in some cases that should be telling people to watch the language, but you're 10 years old. You have no business talking like that, especially to your grandmother. Or talking to your mother like that. And having them talk to you like that and talk to you like that's a regular occurrence.
Yeah,
and I know that there's gonna people be like, that's just the way we live, that's just the way we grew up. It's like, well, does it have to be?
I mean, I understand that your parents have not raised you well, but you should not follow their example, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, dude, just because the whole idea of that cycle of whatever doesn't have to define you. It's like, yes, you could have a horrible background, that doesn't mean that you can't turn your life around.
Mm-hmm.
You might have it harder than some people. You might have like a disadvantage in some cases, but still just no excuse to not try at all. You know, it's like, you know, when people talk about breaking that cycle of violence or breaking that cycle of abuse, it's all about what you're going to do with the rest of your life, regardless of how your life was up to that point.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done, I know, but, you know, when you have these kids who grow up with anger issues and they take it out on their family, take it out in families or whatever, their spouses, their girlfriends, their
Yeah.
boyfriends, or
Domestic abuse is a
really
thing, and it's
upsets me
horrible.
to have to hear about it because
Mhm.
it's like, why? I guess I watch too many crime dramas or crime shows, like, you know, what do we call them?
True crime or something.
True crime. That's it. Where you watch people talk about like really crappy people, and there was like a channel called The Casual Criminalist, and I had to stop listening to the talk. Like I was listening to one, and it just got so bad, and it's just like, and it starts out with either, you know, sometimes it starts out with the kid having really bad mental issues, but the problem is nobody does anything about them. Nobody takes the kid to therapy. There's no help for this kid, and in some
Yeah.
cases you have people who make it worse by how they treat the kid because they're different, or because, you know, they're trashy people too. And you have people who are like, well, I was, you know, it's like the father was abused by his father, so he's going to be an abusive D-bag. And I'm like, does it have to be this way? Crappy parents raise crappy kids.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, and there are going to be cases. There are going to be cases where it's not the parents' fault. Because whatever, you know, sometimes you have a child who's, for some reason, for lack of a better term, lack of a better phrase, their brain is broken somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's like something inside of them is broken. And there's nothing really you can do about it except get them help. If that. And sometimes it's not going to go well because sometimes it's all on them. You know, they have their agency. They have the ability to make decisions for themselves at a certain point, and they're going to make decisions and they're going to do stuff. So there's not really much you can do at that point, but you're not helping them if you're if you're the cause of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're going to be the one abusing them, you know, in some form or fashion, in a horrible way, physically, emotionally, what have you, you know, they're not gonna turn out well. They're not gonna cope with it very
Exactly.
well.
Yeah. It seems like in some cases, like parents need parents need therapy, or parents just need classes to know how to teach. You know how to teach them how to raise their young and everything else.
They should just not have children. Sometimes I'm an advocate for that too. Like, some people are just not fit to be parents.
And they're not, and sometimes they're very delusional. Like I've seen like cases where like the parents are very cruel with their kids when it comes to punishment, like not having them eat for like days or even weeks, and then the poor child's just like starving.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a case just recently, and where you have I think it was the name now. Sure, it's come up. And unfortunately, it happened within my religion because, you have people who take doctrine the wrong way.
Yeah.
And there's a case of the woman who let the other woman influence her by telling her that whatever their children were doing was, you know, that their children were living sinful lives, and she let that creep into her head, and she's like starved her kids and abused them, and you know they were like when they were when the kid like escaped from his, you know, when the kids escaped from their bondage and went off to into a neighbor for help, they were in emaciated condition. They were in horrible condition, and you know, and then they, you know, you had to have the police show up at the person's house and like rescue these poor kids, and you know, and these people are still. This woman was still like delusional, you know, talking about it's like, oh, you know, not taking any like accountability for her actions. You know, it's not her fault this happened. It's this woman who told me all this stuff that was going to happen, or it was the kid's fault, or it was my husband's fault. It's like never her fault.
Yeah.
You know, like typical narcissist behavior, and it sickens me that there are people like that who don't take accountability for their actions like that.
I wouldn't even think of narcissism. I think it's just purely delusional because they refuse to believe that.
Well, yeah. Well, narcissism plays a role in it. There's more there, but there is a degree of narcissism because they're so it can't possibly be their fault.
Mm-hmm.
They would need a degree of narcissism in order to actually believe that. So yeah.
But anyway, I don't want to make our entire thing about that. But there are. Let's just conclude by saying there are really crappy people out there. And
no, that's just real. Yeah, that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it, and yeah, it's actually good to acknowledge this because, you know, you never know if anyone's watching or anyone listening or anyone else that they could seek out help whenever they can, or if there's anyone who really sees something going wrong with their family, then they need to do something, speak out, or like call the police or something. Because, you know, if they know someone who's getting abused or something else, then they should act quickly before it's too late.
Yeah, I go to another Discord. It's actually run by somebody who they I don't know what all their credentials are, but I do know that they have like some they do offer like therapeutic advice to people who deal with certain like issues and whatnot. People who just sort of need help dealing with, you know, empowerment and trying to get their lives together. People who deal with anxiety and, you know, certain aspects, certain things like that, they get stigmatized. You know, you have people who are made to believe that their problems aren't real, that their problems are not justified, that they're wrong to feel the way they are. It's just all in their head, and blah blah blah. And no, you have people who are dealing with real problems, real chemical imbalances, or you know, it could be something internal or it could be something external.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have sometimes it comes down to how you're raising your kids and teaching your kids, because you have people who are told just to suck it up. That's how people have been, you know, taught to deal with problems, and that's nothing new. That's been going on before I was even born. You know, you have people who've gone to war dealing with PTSD, or as it was known back then, shell shock.
Mm-hmm.
And you have people who deal with, you know, these horrible traumatic situations. Their bodies have gone through shock.
Yeah.
They have recurring nightmares. Their brains have completely been altered by these experiences. They've experienced more with, like, you know, these traumatic situations than most people would have to deal with in all their lives. And then they get home and they're just told to suck it up.
Mm-hmm.
They're told that they need to just deal with it. And those people, you know, you have situations where they have difficulty getting back and having civilian relationships. They can't get married, or they get married and they share that abuse with the people they live with
Yeah.
because they lash out. They use substances to cope with the issue,
Unfortunately, yeah.
and so you have domestic abusive situations. They're lashing out at their spouses, they're lashing out at their kids. The kids have to deal with it, and those kids have to grow up and take that and incorporate that into their lives. They're the ones who have to either go along with that cycle of abuse or find some way of breaking it. They're the ones who are like seeking help for these issues. And then not too long after that, you have, after World War II, you have, you have the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and that was even worse because at least the people who came back from World War II, they were seen as heroes. In Vietnam, people were seen as killers, and you had this whole movement of people who were saying that war was bad and those who went off to war were horrible people. And it's like, dude, they were drafted into that. They had no choice.
Yeah, yeah.
They had to do what their superiors told them to do, regardless. And you have this government who wanted this war over as quickly as possible. They did horrible things to, you had horrible things done to try to get this war taken care of, and chemical warfare, and just you're subjecting all these people to, and then to make that worse, they come home and then they're treated like criminals. They're treated like war criminals.
Yeah.
And ousted by society, and they're not given the help that they need because they're told again, suck it up. Nowadays, you have programs to help people kind of adjust to civilian life. I remember just in my religion, there are people who go on missions, and they have this sort of routine in their lives. And that's like the lighter side of going off and having a different lifestyle for a while, where you have this level of discipline, and your body programs itself to deal with these issues.
Yeah.
To deal with the new schedule or whatever. The military is like that times like 500, because they go off and they have training, they have rigorous training, they have they have to rise at a certain time, sleep at a certain time, and then they come home and they have to adjust to a unscheduled, a less rigorous lifestyle. Lifestyle that's more to the, and some people can't cope with that. Some people can't cope with that lack of schedule. And I can't speak on that too much in personal experience because I never went into the military and I never had, things. But I do know what I do know is that when I took a leave from work, and I worked overnights, and trying to adjust to a daytime schedule was hard at first, because it's like your body is used to rising at a certain time, sleeping at a certain time.
Yeah, it's a cycle.
And when I started the job, and this was coming off from somebody who used to wake up early in the morning and then sleeping during the day, I had difficulty. There's a condition called shift syndrome, where late night shift syndrome or something like that, where your body is acclimated to a life of artificial light. You get moody, you go through mood changes because you're just tired and you can't cope with things. And I also have ADHD, which makes it even harder for me to cope with changing environment. My brain is constantly on fire all the time with with nervous energy, and I always have to I'm like always frenetic and being like, okay, this has got to get done, this has got to get done, this has got to get done, I got to do this, and sorry, I'm also doing some cleaning here while I'm talking.
Oh, it happens. Don't worry.
Right.
But you deal with it's hard dealing with that kind of change to your lifestyle, and it got to a point it was like I have to find a balance of work and sleep and being awake. There has to be a sort of work-life balance there.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that was a thing until I started working there, and then I started looking into it. I did research online, look it up, deal with the problem, because I didn't like the person I was becoming at first. I didn't like, getting angry, getting emotional, too emotional and snapping at people, or just being grumpy and not wanting to do anything and being like, I'm tired, I'm sore all the time. And that would be my excuse for not wanting to go out somewhere, or go shopping or going out and doing stuff, it's like, I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife is an understanding person, but she has her limits. I can't just keep complaining and expect her to put it. I knew that if there were going to be changes made, I had to make those changes myself.
Yeah.
So, and I did. I tried to sleep more. I did my best to, and after a while, your body adjusts to it. And then I went on my medical leave, and I went back to daytime again. And then it wasn't like a horrible environmental change. What it was it was showing me everything that I was missing. And then I had to go back into doing night shifts because I went back to work. But
Yeah.
it told me, it's like, I don't want to be on the night shift forever. The human body is just not meant to be nocturnal. Or,
Exactly, yeah.
It's not meant to stay up at night. We're not meant to be we're not owls. We're not, night critters. We're not moles. We're not supposed to live in dark tunnels and stare out with wide blinking eyes or whatever. We're supposed to live out in the daylight and sleep at nighttime. That's what our bodies are supposed to do. We're supposed to be active in the daytime and sleep during the nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
But they got this idea in their heads that work can be done at night. And yes, I agree that in the line of work that I do, I work in retail, I work overnight stocking. It is best done at night, but it's your body, you want to sleep all the time. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes there are days where I wake up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes 2, sometimes 4, sometimes 6. And it's the sleep schedule is not consistent. You kind of have to set the alarm. You kind of have to train yourself to rise at a certain time. And yeah, it can lead to that. It can lead to sort of a lesser form of PTSD in a way, because you are putting physical stress on your body, and then you have to try and sleep it off.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of have to, and then when you wake up, you kind of take work home with you.
Yeah.
Because, and you want to separate that from your life. And I'm glad that I never went off to war, because I knew that I'd be a horrible, horrible person if I had to experience the things that they had to experience.
Yeah, I
But
don't blame you. I don't blame you at all.
so, but I just want to say to anybody who happens to be listening, and dealing with things like that, you're dealing with problems, whether it's ADHD or being on the spectrum, or anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, whatever is your problem, whatever the affliction, you are justified in how you and how you feel. When you say that you feel anxious, where you feel scared, that you feel out of place, out of sorts. I grew up where people did not know anything about ADHD. I grew up and they expected me to kind of behave like a normal neurotypical person, get their work done on time. And, there were not too many people, and there's still not, and, it is one of the most overdiagnosed and underdiagnosed conditions, they say. And, I grew up and they tell me, it's like, you gotta get your work done. If you don't get your work done, you're gonna be doing it on the sidewalk. And, when you're gonna be doing it outside where everybody else is, and you're gonna be doing it at recess and not having a recess because you didn't get your classwork done. And I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't focus. It's like, well, how the heck am I supposed to sit here and focus when I'm trying to, when people are around me playing? It's like, yeah, that's a great idea. And, people made fun of me for being, for daydreaming or whatever. Like, and I had to get medicated for it. And it got to the point where, after I graduated high school, even my dad sometimes would be like, did you take your medication? When he found out that I wasn't, if he found out that I was like not paying attention or whatever, it would always be like, are you taking your medication? And it's like, got to the point, it's like, I'm sick of hearing that. I don't want to take medication anymore. I probably still need medication, but I don't want to. I don't want to rely on medication to be normal.
Mm-hmm.
To function, to be treated like I'm a normal person, So, yeah, I get it. And I get that my condition is like nothing compared to, I'm not in any way comparing myself to people who've had autism. I know what autism looks like. My brother-in-law, he has autistic kids. I have my wife's cousin, who is my best friend. He was the one who introduced me to my wife. He's got Asperger's or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
He's got that, and it's difficult for them because they have their own trials to deal with. They, my friend, I guess you could call him my cousin-in-law because that's what he is now.
Yeah.
He he is very socially awkward. He's very articulate. He's very intelligent. He's just very awkward. He sometimes gets lost in, when he's around too many people at once, he's very, very sensitive to too many loud noises.
Yeah, I know that one.
And, he just, sometimes he has difficulty coping, and sometimes he has things where it's like, he has like very niche interests, and he will sometimes stay within those interests and not want to socialize with other people. And a lot of people sometimes see him as a weird guy because, he wants to express himself, but, the world just isn't ready for that.
Yeah.
The world isn't open enough or available to him because of those things. And the world does not want to adjust to him. He has to be the one to adjust to them, but they don't want to do the adjusting at all.
Yeah, that's
And,
actually worse. Yeah.
So there is a stigmatism on, people stigmatize these kinds of issues. In some countries, it's worse. I know that it's like seen as shameful to be, show any kind of weakness in some places. Any kind of like thing where you're like abnormal or whatever. I've heard stories where families were like disowning their kids because they were abnormal, or trying to like back in the day, the way they dealt with abnormalities was they try to shock it out of them. Literally, they go to take
Oh,
like electroshock therapy or lobotomize them or something because they
yeah, I was
thought it was
thinking
something.
lobotomy was another thing.
Yeah, they would try to like remove that from them. They thought it was a disease that needed to be purged from them. And it was just like they didn't understand mental issues at all. It's like you had to absolutely be normal, you know. And we've come a long way since then, and we're still not where we need to be yet.
Yeah, we're working on that still. Yeah.
And there are cases where you have children, my nieces, for example, they are non-vocal. They don't talk. They communicate in other ways, but they don't, they don't talk. And they'll show behaviors that are seen as different. And they're going to be there. I remember one instance where they'll vocalize by making noise. They make sounds. They have stemming things where their hands will shake and flap and whatnot.
Yeah.
And when they get excited and whatnot, they're like filled with sort of like a nervous energy, and they get all like excited and happy and giggle, and sometimes very loudly. And I
Yeah.
remember my brother-in-law telling me that he was once in a McDonald's with his family, and he was having a stemming issue. She was having a fit or whatever, or it was just not necessarily what I'd call a fit. She was very happy and she was vocalizing it in the best way she knew how. And they had people who were like sitting next to them who were like making fun of them or like imitating their behavior. And it's like, don't do that. That is like the most insensitive thing that you can do. It's like they can't help the way they are. And it upset him. My brother-in-law wanted to go over there and tell him to shut up. Like, you don't treat my kids like that. You don't treat my kids like that. They're not animals at the zoo that you can sit there and gawk at.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, they're going to be, there's things that you're going to notice things that are different. And perhaps there's things that you could learn from them if you took the time, but you don't stare at them, you don't gawk at them, you don't imitate them, you don't laugh at them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. And sometimes they can't, like, when they take their kids to church, and they have to like sometimes sit in the lobby because what they do is sometimes could be considered a disruption. So they have to like sit out in the lobby, and luckily there's loudspeakers so you could hear what's going on. So it's not like they're totally excluded from it. But yeah, you can't. They can't congregate. Which is, what a lot of, which is the ideal situation. When you're in that kind of situation, when you're in church, you want to congregate, you want to socialize, you want to sit amongst other people, your fellow man, and listen, and be a part of it, not be excluded.
Yeah.
And so it is hard for them to deal with it, and they've learned how to cope with it. But it's, in a lot of ways, I think if you are a parent of autistic kids, you're probably some of the most patient people in the world, because you've had to train yourself to be patient people, because it's not their fault, and that's what I say to people who have to deal with these issues. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
The world needs to adjust. People need to, if there's anything I say, if you have the ability to communicate what you're feeling, do it. There are people who actually write blogs, because even though they may not be able to communicate vocally, they're still able to write. And so there are people who actually write blogs and things about how they go through things. And that's been a lot of help, I think, to a lot of people. And it helps people who have to cope with that because it gives you insight into what their brains are going through.
Yeah.
You know, that's something you don't really see all that often, and that's one of the things that I like about social media or the internet is that you have access to information that you didn't have back in, back then, back in the 80s before the internet, because you have insight into that kind of mindset. You can look at it like, okay, this is how they feel. I know that people with autism, my nieces, you are very physically sensitive to outside stimuli. For instance, my niece does not like people brushing her hair because it like, from what I understand, it's like your scalp is on fire when people are like trying to brush your hair and try to get you ready. It's one thing that we've had to deal with, and it's good to hear people vocalize that sort of thing. It's like, okay, well, this is how that kind of brain operates when you have people who are able to communicate it. So if you have the ability to communicate what you're going through and learn about yourself, because I've had to go through, dealing with ADHD and whatnot. Sometimes back in the 80s, there wasn't a whole lot known about it. And I'm not going to say that we know 100% about it now, but we know a lot more now.
Thankfully, yeah.
And so I've been able to like read up on it, and my wife has been able to read up on it because she has to deal with me 24/7, and I have to be able to communicate with her when I'm having issues, because there are times where I feel overwhelmed by things going on. There are times where it's like, because from what I understand now, ADHD is sort of like a filing disorder in your brain. It's where, because I guess in a neurotypical brain, people are able to sort things out. Things are compartmentalized. It's like, okay, this is where your feelings can go. This is where this can go. These are your list of priorities. You can sit there and you can sort through your priorities and be like, okay, this comes first, this one second, this one third, this one fourth, this I can do tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. For a person with ADHD, everything's all jumbled up. You walk into a room that is essentially a mess, and that's what your brain looks like.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And it's like, and all the drawers are just messed up. There's no filing system. There is just chaos. There is disorder. And we have to like make sense of that somehow. And then people try on top of that, on top of what you're already going through, people pile on more stuff. And then when people pile on more stuff, that's where you start getting agitated and frustrated, because it's like, okay, I've already got this stuff to do. Leave me alone 5 minutes while I figure it out. And we live in such a world where that's not always an option.
Yeah.
There's not always that option to sit there and take a deep breath and try to get some air before you have to go back underwater again. And so so when I'm having issues like that, I've had to try, and I'm not perfect at it. No one is, but there are days when I get frustrated and I snap or get snippy or whatever, but I have to try and tell myself, I have to tell my wife what's going on. I have to communicate. And I'm glad that she takes the time to try, and that's also where when we started our relationship together and started it on a foundation of friendship and communication, that's where that comes in. I can sit and I can talk with her for hours and articulate what's going on in my head, and she encourages it sometimes. There are times that I don't want to. There are times I don't want to talk about what's going on in my head because I don't know what's going on in my head half the time.
Yeah, it happens. Awful feeling.
I have to sit there and be like, okay, well, now I put my foot in my mouth, and now I have to take it out, and I have to pay for it. So And it's hard. It's hard to sit there and take accountability for those actions that you did when you were angry, having frustrated moments and stuff. But it helps because then it kind of tells my wife, because I think she might be developing it. And sometimes people develop it at a young age, some people develop it later in life. And I think she's one of those where, at the very least, I know she's probably developing it now because she's showing some signs of, of sometimes where it's like she's frazzled sometimes and just can't cope with things, and she has anxiety, and she's just unable to, she has to be like, okay, I need me time right now. I have to unload. I have to unpack this. So there might be some issues where she's dealing with it now, and that and talking. And the only reason she knows that is because she sees she sees that behavior in me. She sees probably more than I do. She's on the outside looking in and can be like, okay, he's having an ADHD moment. Where, it could be something like walking into a room and forgetting what you were doing there, or forgetting where I put something, or having to have someone repeat something because it went in one ear and out the other without sticking somewhere in the middle. And there's just certain behaviors that I exhibit that apparently are ADHD behaviors. And yeah, I knew that I grew up with it and everything like that, but it hits home when you're living with somebody when you're living with somebody 24/7, living in the same house for a good while, you kind of have to deal. You have to deal with that. My parents had to deal with it to an extent, but not to the extent that my wife has to deal with, because she takes me out. We go out together, we do things, and there are times when she's like, "You need to pay attention to where you're going because you're going to run into something." There were times I've almost walked out into traffic without even thinking about it. There are times when I've driven down the road and the stop sign that I didn't even see was there just sort of pops out in the middle of nowhere. It's like you focus on certain things and everything else is a black hole. You drop things on the floor and all of a sudden it's lost because your brain can't find it. It's just not there. There's something to do with cognition as well, I'm sure, where it's like it's just not there anymore. It's like my dad. I remember my dad telling me I need this, and I'd be sitting there staring, and staring for 30 minutes, and it's right, and then when I find it, it's right there. It's my brain could not attach the word to the item. There's a disconnect there, and it's just there. It's weird sometimes. It's like, yeah, I knew there was a stop sign there, but for some reason I didn't attach the importance of stopping to the stop sign. So it can be dangerous, and there are times when I have to be okay, well, I can sit there and I can justify it all I like, but at the end of the day, I almost killed myself. So it's you kind of have to understand what's going on in your head, and it's not easy because you also have to try to get a reliable source of information when you're doing research as well, because there are going to be, you ask 100 people, you're going to get 100 answers, and they're not always going to agree with each other. There are people who are going to be like, this happens because of this, and then some people are like, this happens because of this.
People have their own theories.
And it's we don't want theories, we want answers. And it all boils down to the fact that there are no answers sometimes for these things. And that's why communication of these problems from the people who deal with them is important, because then we have data. We have a spectrum of data to go along with these issues. Because not everybody does these things the same. But there are people who you're going to read about and do research about, and people who do these firsthand testimonials, and it's yeah, That's what I have to deal with every day.
Mhm.
This is what I have to go through. You're going to find that because there are people who are going to be talking about it. So that's why communication about it, if you're able to, is important. Don't, we live in an age now where we have to talk about it now. We can't just keep it silent anymore. We can't think to ourselves, nobody's going to accept me if I talk about it, if I open up about it. We have to talk about it.
Mhm.
Because there's other people who are going to have to, who need to hear it.
Yeah.
There are people who have been searching for answers, and the best answers they're going to get are going to come from the people who have had to deal with it.
Yeah, that's
And,
true.
People who've dealt with it, who've in some cases overcome it in some cases, because they're going to look to you for guidance. They're going to look to you to be that guiding light in their life. And I've had cases like that with myself, where it's like, oh, somebody's finally vocalized what I've been going through for the last 30-something years. So, so I've been grateful that there's information at my fingertips that I can read now and look at it. Because back then it was just like, hey, it's just something you got to deal with. Oh, he's going to grow out of it, or you'd have to do people. It's like, oh, he's a daydreamer. He's not going to amount to anything. Or there's people who could be sitting out there and telling you you're something when you're something else.
I hate those kinds of people.
I've been called the R word. I've been called dyslexic. I've been called dumb. I've been called deaf. It's like, because when you're zoning out or whatever, you're not paying attention to people. People are going to be like, and I'm like sitting here like, do you even know what these words that you're saying mean? It's like, this word, I do not think you know what it means. And it's like yeah, it's like people call me, there's one person who's like calling me dyslexic, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means. How the hell do you know what that word means? And it's probably some word that he picked up from his parents or something. It's like, oh, I'm eager to use this. Here's this college level word. Here's $1 million word, and I can't wait to use it on somebody. Here's a good target. So people are gonna call you things and tell you that you are something, and that's another reason you need to educate yourself about what you are, because then you can be like, no, I'm this, and I do this because of this. These are the reasons why I do these things. And you're either going to have to take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. I have the ability to communicate. I have no excuse to not communicate anymore about these issues. You can't be afraid to talk about these issues with somebody. And if you can't talk to your parents, then talk to somebody else, and luckily that's part of what the other Discord channel that I'm a part of is about, is that we talk to people about these issues. We talk about what's going on in their lives. People vocalize what they go through when they have these traumatic experiences, and it's not just people going there and blowing smoke up your butt about it. You have people who are going to sit down and you talk about it with, or you go, or find somebody to talk about, because you need to talk about it. So that's my advice to people who are dealing with issues, who can vocalize or write, or if you have these, if you have the ability to communicate somehow, do it. And do research about yourself, because otherwise people are going to do it for you. People are going to label you. If you don't label yourself, then other people are going to do it for you.
Yeah.
So anybody out there in Blogville, or anybody here in the chat, this is what it's about. So that's what you got to do.
It's well said, yeah, indeed.
There are going to be days when there's going to be days where it's not going to be easy, to vocalize it. I know. But if you can, when you get yourself calmed down and you can talk about it, because, anyway. Trying to think about what I'm doing here. ADHD is kicking in again.
It's alright, yeah. I have a brother who is on the spectrum. He has autism as well, and he doesn't really make sense of what he says, or like he makes sense, but he tries his best to respond to whatever he's told by my mom or either me. But I found him that he's a little bit more distracted. He's a little bit distracted nowadays because he's got, what is it? He does whatever he wants to do. He likes to do his own hobbies, which is like either look at maps or play Smash Bros.
Right.
Or anything else. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Go for it.
Oh, no, you sound like you were about to say something, and I feel like I cut you off. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, I was, but I'm letting you talk because usually, I don't want to, just, I just you can go before you forget.
Well, I was just saying that, yeah, with the person I know who's dealing with Asperger's, he has, like I said, he has his niche interests, and sometimes we have to try to go the extra mile and including him in activities, and sometimes it can be frustrating because, like for instance, I remember we took him, my wife and I, we went to a convention together, and it was one that I was like looking forward to, and it was a spur of the moment thing. We went, I collect Transformers. That's one of my favorite hobbies.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And I collect, and I watch the shows and everything like that, or at least some of them. And there was a Transformers convention in, in Anaheim, I think. Yeah, I think, was it Anaheim? I think it was somewhere in LA. And we went there, and I was like, okay, well, we're going to take, it's going to be me, my wife, her brother, and her cousin. And her cousin is the one who has the Asperger's. And we took him, and it just seemed to me like he was just very focused on what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
He wanted things to, one of his things is he's very particular about his schedule. He's got a set thing of things that he wants to do, and I can kind of relate, because when I have something that I really want to do, and that's part of, when you have ADHD, one of the other things is that you are very hyper focused.
Yeah.
You can get fixated on something you really, really want to do. And it's anybody who tells you otherwise, who tries to get you to deviate from that fixation, it's frustrating. Sometimes it feels like someone's tugging you, and sometimes it literally is somebody tugging you and telling you, no, you gotta do this first and this first. And
yeah.
it's like, no, and but I think with the way he is, it can feel more intensified. And he was getting like really frustrated because I guess he ordered food from a place where it's like food by appointment. Like you have to like make an appointment to get food at this place because the wait there is like an hour or so. It's like this really weird place to play, and it's like I will never eat there because I do not like the idea of waiting that long and having an appointment just to get food. There are a few places that I would ever want to eat where that's a thing, and that's definitely just, it's not worth it to me. But anyway, he was really fixated on that, and he was always afraid that, it's like one of those people who's like constantly looking at his watch or looking at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
my brother's like that too.
This has got to happen. This, and it's like, I'm gonna miss this if we don't do this. And it's just like, you have time. And if you don't, if we are running over that time, have somebody take you there. You know, it's like we're trying to give him options. Like I am literally holding the door open for you and giving you a way out if you want to do that. But his, I guess, some degree of like stubbornness of wanting to, you know, be along with us and doing his thing was like waging an internal war inside of him.
Yeah.
And so he was being a bit of you know, for lack of a better word, he was being a bit of a curmudgeon that day, and just not, you know, he kind of being a bit of a stick in the mud. And as we had things that we wanted to do, and he was just like constantly like, you know, telling us that we, you know, that we were, you know, that we were not following his schedule, we were not doing what we needed to do, we were taking too much time, we were not planning things out right or whatever. It's like, with the way this convention is set up, sometimes things happen. You know, sometimes you know, we didn't know that there was like a, because I went there and there's different things to do. First off, there's the sales floor where you can go and, like, you know, people bring in their Transformer merchandise or what have you. There's other people who brought things like, you know, Gundam models and you know, different, you know, what have you. They had their collections or whatever they were selling. And you could go there and you could buy something. And in the sales floor also, there's people who are giving, you know, you had people who were involved in Transformers over the years, voice actors, musicians, directors, who were doing signings and whatnot. You could line up for those if you wanted them. And then, of course, there was the main event, which was the voice of Optimus Prime, Peter Cullen, was there.
Oh, damn.
That was the main reason that I was going, was I wanted his autograph and to see him and whatnot. And this was an opportunity for me. It was like something to check off on my bucket list. Because, you know, I mean, I speak for a lot of Transformer fans when I say that it's like you're meeting like a father figure, you know, it's like somebody whose voice literally raised children. Okay,
Yeah,
it's
pretty
like
much.
Optimus Prime was a father figure to a lot of children, you know, who might have not grown up with a, you know, a steady father figure in their lives, or people who just sat down in front of the TV or whatever, and, you know, he was the voice of reason.
Yeah.
And this, you know, and so I got to meet him.
Nice.
And I also met, I don't know how well you know Transformers, but she's also a voice actress and a lot of other things. Her name is Susan Blue. She's also a voice director as well. But she's the voice of RC from the original Transformers G1.
Right. Okay.
And trying to think of other things that she's done. I know she's done a lot of different other voices, but none of them are springing to mind. It's Susan and then Blue, just without the E. It's like BLU.
Yeah.
So she's done a lot of things in the 80s. She was very prominent in the 80s, and so I got to meet her as well. And that was just sort of a thing when I was walking around on the sales floor. It was just one of those things like, oh, the line's not really that long. I have some little extra spending money. I'm going to buy this Transformer, and then I'm going to have her sign the box.
Oh, sweet, yeah.
So, you know, so I got the, there's a figure, it's the Masterpiece figure. It's basically like a more, it's definitely like a big step above just the regular toys that you get on the toy shelves.
It's like the master grade for the Gundam plastic models.
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of it, you know, you have figures that are like they have die cast in them, and they have like they have a lot of like accessories and stuff. Like one of the things about the Masterpiece figures is they have a lot of like accessories, and they really go for like the different things like doors. Sometimes you have ones with the doors open, cockpits will open. You have like the accessories that they used in the show. Like for RC, it was like the little thing that knocks out the wheels in Transformers the movie when they're driving, and she uses this little spike thing that sticks out and goes in the spokes of the motorcycles, or
It's pretty
guns that she
cool.
uses or whatever, the visor that goes down over her eyes when she's like using telescopic vision or whatever. So like binoculars, like built-in telescopic visor or whatever. So there's like different accessories. Like sometimes you have ones that have like pile drivers that cause seismic waves, or with Optimus Prime, it's the Matrix of leadership, the Energon axe, the gun, a little minifigure to fit inside. The cab will open up and you can sit the figure inside, and the character will sit there and ride inside. With a more there's a figure with the Optimus Prime figure with the trailer, and the trailer will come with all the accessories in it. So it's like it's a more scaled up figure. It's a lot more expensive, and there's some holy grails out there of the figures that I want that I'll probably never get in my lifetime because they're just way too expensive. But but I was able to get that get that autograph, and that was one that I wasn't planning to get. It was just one of those spur of the moment things, like, hey, I've got time. I'm in the sales floor. The line to her has got a few people long, and I got an autograph. It was great. And Peter Collins signed a book that I had that had it was like the art of Transformers Prime and whatnot. But cutting back to the original point of the story, because ADHD, of course.
Yeah.
Having
It
a great time, and my cousin-in-law was getting agitated, and he would snap at my wife, his cousin, about driving and getting there, and then he like sometimes he got out of the car and just sort of like walked and kind of treated us like we weren't even there.
Whoa.
It's like he kind of had this thing where it was like he kind of like. It's like it's like, okay, now I'm in my element, and I'm going to do my thing, and he just started walking ahead. My wife and I were just sort of like walking back there. He like made no attempt to like communicate with us or talk with us on the way there while we were walking towards the restaurant he was getting his food from. He was just very focused, like, I gotta get here and I gotta get here now, and these people are slowing me down.
Mm-hmm.
And by that time, I was just like, the convention was just sort of like, I had a great time, but by that point, my energy levels are low, and I was like feeling it. Like we had walked into another store somewhere. We went to after he was good with his food and whatnot, we were back on speaking terms again. Laurie, my wife, Laurie, wanted to take us to I think it was her or it was somebody. Either that or maybe it was her cousin. Anyway, we went to a store. It was like it was like a role playing store that had like dice and role playing modules and things. Like you played any kind of tabletop role playing game, there was a book for it there and all that. It was like a really cool. It was like a really cool place. It was like set up to look like, they had like you go inside and there's like, it looked like they set it to look like battlements and like tower, they like walking inside like a castle or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like they really tried to like have the medieval theme going on for it. It was like really cool and whatnot, but by that time my energy levels were kind of low, and I was like almost like falling asleep on my feet, and I had to sit down for a little bit. But yeah, it was, it's like, so I think the main difference between me and him is like, yes, we're going to have our interests. We're going to have our things that we like and we're going to be crazy about, obsessive about even. I could probably talk your ear off about voice actors and animation and art or whatever, but But if you tried to talk, but if you wanted to talk to me about something that you were passionate about, I will shut up and I will listen.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin-in-law, on the other hand, will sometimes do that, but there will be a definite point where he cuts off, and he will not want to talk about anything except what he's interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And I try my best. I try very hard to listen and hone in on what he's saying, and for the most part, I can. Just like I can talk to somebody about, I can listen to somebody talking about cars, or I can listen to somebody talking about sports for a certain period of time. But there will be a point where I'm just like, okay, I'm only half listening, but I do want to hear about why they like what they like. But with my cousin-in-law, it's even less so. And I know it's not his fault. It's something that we just sort of have to tolerate. But
Yeah.
that was one of those days where it was just like, okay, you couldn't just sort of like try to be involved here. Like we tried to take him out into the sales floor, and you have to have the bracelet on. And I think he only paid for like the basic package, which was like there was the sales, like the big sales floor, and then there's sort of like I would say is the artist's gallery, where it's like you have people who are like selling the stickers. Now sort of the outside lobby, and I think if you have that, then you're like restricted to that only. If you have the most basic package. But the thing is, you could take off the bracelet and give it to somebody else, and they will not complain about it. So we were like, look, if you want this, we'll give you this bracelet, and you can go in there and you can, go in there and have a turn with it. But he didn't want to do that. So it's just like, okay, sorry, this is, we were the ones who invited him in the first place. He didn't have to come with us, but he did, and then he treated it like we were forcing him to go out. So it's like, yeah, I get it. You have this thing, and you have your priorities and things you want to do, but
Hey, Senko. Hopefully you're doing all
my
right.
wife is trying to, I think I was more tolerant of it than my wife was, because my wife was on the position of, this is my husband's birthday. It's something he really wanted to do. I really wanted to treat him to this, and he... I don't appreciate you acting like this when I'm trying to treat my husband to this really cool thing that we don't get to do very often.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, I want to share this experience, but if you really don't want to share this experience, I'm not going to force you to do it. So I was a little bit more lenient than she was about it, but I think at the end of the day, when we were together, we were both having a moment where we were sort of talking about the experience together, alone by ourselves. I think we both kind of agreed that it's like, yeah, he definitely could have been a lot more engaged, but he chose not to.
Yeah.
So, but I wasn't gonna let that ruin my experience. I had a good time. I made memories there and got to talk to people who share the same interests, and that's something that every fan, I think, wants to have the chance to do once in their lives, at least. Have
awesome.
somebody out there who's out there who's like, oh wow, you like this, I like it too, great. What episode did you like, or what character did you like, which ones are your favorites, how big's your collection? My collection's got this much, I only collect these certain figures, or whatever. Those are the kinds of experiences I look for when I go on this convention. This was my first Transformers convention, so it was great. So I'm glad it was like an opportunity for us. It was not something that was too far away. It was like 3-hour drive down to LA. That was pretty good. So, and it was my birthday, so. But and there's other things that he's done before that were kind of that irked me even more. Was we had him over for Christmas at our apartment, and At the time, he originally was going to go over to my brother-in-law's because they do the D&D at the table,
Mm-hmm.
and or Pathfinder, but they just call it D&D. That's essentially the same thing, really.
I
But
want to try
as far as
Pathfinder. Virtual.
they're concerned, and they played D&D, and that's something that he really wanted to do. But my brother-in-law was having issues with his kids his kids were sick, and it was like some one of the strains of COVID that was going around at the time. And so it's like they had to quarantine a little bit. They couldn't have him over because they didn't want him getting sick.
Yeah.
And so he was over here, and the entire time he's kept
I'm
on
glad your
going
internet's
on
working
about how
fine,
much he
Senko.
wanted to be over there. It's like there was absolutely nothing that he could do over here. He just wanted to be over there. He went even so far as to, we were talking to one of my neighbors downstairs, and he was like, oh yeah, I was supposed to be over here, over at my cousin's house today, but I guess I'm over here. And just like, dude, really?
Mm.
It's like we're trying to give you a good time here, because otherwise you're going to spend Christmas by yourself, and we're trying to accommodate him and whatnot. And it's not like he drove himself; he took public transportation because for some reason he can't get himself a car these days.
Mm-hmm.
He can't, he's kind of. It's one of the things that's kind of a little bit irks me a little bit is that he won't drive now. Like he
Mm-hmm.
wants other people to drive him, or he takes public transportation or whatever. And it's like, dude, you need to drive, because when you're going places and people have to go out of their way, it's like, yeah, they're going to be kind and they're going to accommodate you, but really it's a burden of gas if they have to go miles out of their way.
Yeah.
But but we were giving him, public transportation took him up to where we live, and we took him into the apartment and whatnot, and he just there are people who are going to who are going to find their situations not the most ideal. You're going to be in situations where it's not where you want it to be, but at the very least you can make the most of it.
Yeah.
He wasn't willing to make the most of it, and that was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't happy until he got what he wanted. And it was just like, yeah, I get it. It's the fixation. It's the Asperger's. I get it. It's something you have to deal with. But it's like, you could try just a little bit. I'm not asking you to. We're not asking you to, in the old days where it was like, dude, suck it up. But we are asking you to at least, it's Christmas. And the least you could do is, be happy about where you are and be thankful just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of one of those instances where, and my wife was just like, you know what, I don't want to have him in the apartment for a while because that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, yeah, I get it. We both know why why he did it, but it just is one of those situations. It's like, you have to communicate. You have to own it. You have to take responsibility. You have to have accountability about the actions that you have. And when you lash out or get angry because of it, you still have to own that too.
Yeah.
That's something that you have to, because you have to realize that what you do, what your behavior is going to affect other people around you.
Mm-hmm.
If you lash out and you hurt somebody's feelings, the least you could do is apologize and try to atone for that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the little things, really. It's all about owning that. It's all about accountability. It's all about recognizing that you have an issue and then trying to figure out a way to at least compromise. So, and there are times he does really well, And there are times that he has his shortcomings, but don't we all?
Yeah.
I won't say there haven't been times where I haven't sat there and been the grouchy one and been like, man, I really wish that we could be doing this right now, but I'm out here and it's hot out here and I'm uncomfortable and we're walking around in this place and I really wish we were somewhere else and yeah, and then later on being like, man, I really wish I could have made the best of that situation because really that's because there was a situation where we were walking around in Griffith Park, which is
The observatory.
huh? I'm sorry.
You said Griffith Park, right? That's the where the observatory is, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's also where the zoo is in LA.
Oh wow.
And they had two zoos. There used to be another zoo. We call it. It's colloquially known as the old zoo, and it was basically in effect. It was basically shut down and made just a regular walking place in like the 40s or 50s because they deemed the area like unfit for the animals. Like they changed regulations. They realized that the the situations they had the animals in, the cages, the accommodations weren't that great, so they had to change the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
But the old zoo you could walk around in. There's a trail there you can walk up around in and walk around like a small hill or whatever. You can climb the hill using a trail. People do hikes all the time. People do night hikes. And you can also kind of like walk around in the old zoo exhibits or whatever. You can walk around where the animals used to be, the old habitats. And it's sort of a mixed bag because sometimes you go into a place and you're just like, man, I don't really have a good feeling about that,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to go in there. But sometimes it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And unfortunately, we went there and it was a hot day, and for some reason, I just could not cope for some reason, and it was hot and it was unbearable. My wife was making the most of it. She was having a good time because she likes to go into exploratory mode. She likes to be like, hey, I'm an urban explorer and I like to go in and check things out. I'm doing parkour right now. Look at me. And me, I'm sitting there like, it's like we're both Tolkien nerds, so I'm like, man, I'm feeling a hobbit right now. I'm in a hobbit hole. I don't want to do anything right now. I'm gonna sit on my
In a
butt.
hobbit mood.
But my wife is more elvish, where she's just like, I want to go out and I want to explore, or I guess you could say she's got more Took than Baggins, because the Tooks and the Hobbits were like, the Tooks were the busybody. They were the ones who went out and they did exploring. They'd go on adventures, whereas the Bagginses and whatnot were more homebodies.
Yeah.
So she was being a Took and I was being a Baggins, and I don't want to go out and do anything. So. And unfortunately, she got a little upset with me and whatnot about it, just because I was being a little bit of a grouch. And, I kind of realized it's like there are times I'm just going to have to sit there and I'm going to have to take it. I'm going to have to be the guy to go out and, try to make the most of the situation that I'm in. It's one of those situations where I had to learn that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not always going to be able to do what I want to do. Sometimes I'm going to have to, bow to the whims of others and do what they want to do and try something new for a change.
Yeah.
And one of those situations where I kind of wish I could go back and be that better guy. So I've kind of made it my thing, like when we're going out and doing things together, even though I might not want to be there, I'm going to have to try and be like, you know what? I got to make the most of this. Because there's going to come a time when I'm not going to be able to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look back, and if I look back at my life, and if I look back at my life, what am I going to see? Am I going to see like, man, that day I really wish I could have stayed home? Or am I going to be like, man, I really wish I went out there and took pictures and ran around and acted like a crazy person and made the most of that. Out of those two things, it's like, which one's going to be that thing that I'm going to, which one of those things am I going to wish for? More often it's going to be the one where it's like, man, I really wish that I acted like a crazy person. I really wish I was a bit more adventurous in life. Because I don't think anybody's going to look back at their life and being like, man, I really wish that I could have stayed home more. So you just,
Yeah.
when the opportunity arises for you to go out and do something fun, then take that opportunity, because those aren't going to come around all that often.
Yeah, indeed.
So, but yeah, it looks like I've been doing a lot of the talking here. Does anybody else want to say anything?
No, I'm just very thrilled by what you have to say, actually, because while the whole autism or on the spectrum conversation, I do have a brother who's also like that as well. It just amazes me that, to find another like-minded individual who also has to go through the similar things that my mom and I have to go through when having a person who's on the spectrum. And it fascinates me. It opens my world even more because I don't usually get to meet that many people who are on the spectrum. Like I know someone with with Down syndrome, and they're a lovely person. They are, but they can often be what's the word I'm looking for? Sometimes they're not like oh god, what is the word? Considerate is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes they're not considerate, or sometimes they're like they really don't respect personal space. So there's also that. And so hearing your side of things, it's like, wow. It's like
I think that in a lot of ways, I find that I am very fortunate that I have people now in my family, because I didn't have these people in my life until I got married.
Yeah.
But I dealt with people like in school. You pass them by, and you might not understand, and you might not take the time to understand what they're going through, because they're just people you pass by.
Yeah.
But when they're in your family, and it's somebody that you had, I had to live in my brother's house with his kids and interact with them for a few months. And even now we go over there and visit, because they live about 20 minutes away or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you deal with them on a daily basis. You have to learn how to, at least for the very least, you have to deal with it. You have to learn how to deal with it for your own sanity.
Yeah, that's also true.
There's gonna be times when they drive you absolutely crazy.
I know that.
And they're gonna do things. They're gonna do things like my niece. She had this thing. She has obsessions. She has her own little obsessions, and one of her obsessions was picking the carpet. And so you're gonna have to tell them, no, you can't pick the carpet. You can't pick up the carpet fibers. And it got to the point where my brother-in-law actually had to change the floors over to hardwood floors, because his children were plucking the carpet bare. And then it went from picking carpet fibers to picking the paint off the wall, and there's still bare patches of paint.
Oh goodness!
No. She wasn't eating them, thankfully, but she was. It's just peeling the paint right off the wall and whatnot. It's like, you have to stop her from doing that. And now we're coming to realize that the eldest daughter is 16 now.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's going through another range. She's going through puberty now. And so her body is changing. And she's non-vocal. So she can't communicate when the changes are happening and it's starting to hurt, or growing pains, for lack of a better, lack of a more specific phrasing. But yeah, there's going to be times where, the changes in her body are going to be causing her discomfort, and she can't vocalize that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's a whole new ball game now. Because back when I lived with her, she was still like 8 years old and a kid, and now she's a teenager and she still has to deal with the issues that she's dealing with, and it's like, yeah, and she's gonna have mood swings. And that's gonna add, as if she didn't have mood swings before, she has mood swings from growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother-in-law says, like, yeah, she's avoiding me now. She's in her I hate daddy phase. So that's what he says.
Oh,
That's how he interprets the situation.
yeah, that's usually how it is.
The difference is like, she really doesn't have any reason to hate daddy, because it's not like daddy's taking things away from her, or stopping her from going out to see boys or something, like, or the other usual things that people would complain about their parents about, but she still will have those feelings like, I don't want to be around my dad right now, or my dad is really pissing me off for some reason. So
Yeah.
I don't know why my dad's pissing me off right now, but apparently he's pissing me off right now. So being unable to vocalize those issues there is definitely a language barrier there, and it's something that you kind of have to pick up through social cues. You have to kind of be aware of what she's doing, and luckily they take her to therapy, and they're able to sort of like give her they help to give her a voice in certain ways. She's able to vocalize certain things. And we think in a lot of ways she's able to attribute words to what those words mean. And that's the biggest disconnect there is with a lot of people who are that far into the spectrum, is they're unable to attach the word to the meaning of the word. Like if I said tea kettle, they can say tea kettle, they won't know what a tea kettle is unless you're able to somehow say tea kettle and point to the tea kettle, and they can visualize what a tea kettle is.
Yeah.
It's like somebody who's learning, an English speaker who's trying to learn Spanish for the first time. It's like, yeah, they could talk in Spanish to me, but I would not understand what Spanish is.
Yeah,
unless I had some rudimentary understanding of it or whatever. And that's kind of the way it is for them. It's like they'll know that you're saying something, and they can probably imitate it if they really tried hard enough, but they won't know what that word means. And it's not just words, it's also phrases like, don't feel the pain. Don't eat this. Don't stick this in your mouth. Don't go out into the street. Stay where I can see you. Don't walk off. Don't wander off. And there have been times when she's kind of like wandered off somewhere. It's like, where did she go? So yeah, you kind of have to learn how to deal with them, and luckily that's what the therapy is for. It's just able to not only train or educate or looking for appropriate words. Not only are you trying to help your child understand, but you're also helping the parent understand the child.
Yeah,
which is also important, because you have to understand what those social cues are. You have to understand, because they're not going to be able to tell it to you when they're non-vocal. They can't tell you it hurts. They can't tell you that they're happy. You have to understand that when they're giggling like that and making those sounds in a certain way, that they're happy. You have to understand if they're sad, if they're feeling pain, and you have to kind of like teach them, like, look, if you're feeling bad, show me, and it's like, so they teach them those cues, so you can, so it's, it in a lot of ways, in my wife is also doing the behavior training right now. In a lot of ways, dealing with an autistic child, and I hate to say this, but it's kind of true sometimes. It's kind of like dealing with an animal, except except they're probably a lot more. They're a lot more emotional than animals are. I think
Yeah.
they have a lot more depth of emotional range to them than an animal would be. But it's like talking to an animal sometimes. It's like having that language. It's the same kind of language barrier where you have to pick up on whether or not your pet is feeling bad, because they're not going to be able to tell you. They can show you if you know what to look for, and that's how it is with children. You have to understand what they're going through, and that means you're going to have to be attentive to them. And with autistic children, you have to be extra attentive to them. So, because I think they're smart enough to know who's paying attention and who's not. They're gonna know who's not, who's really on the ball and who's just sitting there staring off into space or playing a video game or something. But yeah, you really have to engage with them, take them out, be with them, and get to know them. And I think that's the important thing in dealing with children or anybody who's on the spectrum, really, is you have to take the time to understand them.
Yeah.
And it's educational for them, and it's educational for you. And if they're able to communicate those issues, like I said before, it's even better, because then they can then you both can learn from the experience. And sometimes, if you have to sit there and listen to them rant for an hour about what they like, if it's about if it's about a certain cartoon character or Smash Brothers or Zelda or what have you, if you have to sit there and listen to it, and that's what it takes to understand them, then you're going to have to do that. And I understand that you can't always do that, but every now and again, it helps to be engaged with them. And I know that just from I have a nephew. He's not autistic or anything. He might have ADHD. I don't know, probably, but he has his interests. And I had to learn growing up. I had to learn while he was growing up that those interests change, and I have to, So when he wanted to talk about Thomas the Tank Engine being young, and then started going into talking about superheroes, and he'd go on and on about superheroes, or he'd go on and on about talking about, he got into sports, really, into collecting like football cards and football memorabilia, and really starting to study football statistics and things like that, or talking about Pokemon or what have you. Sometimes I have to sit there and I have to listen to it. Because when you do that, when there's a more serious issue that comes up, you're going to be the one they come to. If you're the one who's most engaged with them.
Yeah.
They know who to go to talk to. And I remember a thing that happened. My nephew he had a friend who stopped being his friend. Not only did he stop being his friend, but he went the opposite direction, started being, a little bit of an antagonistic punk. And started making fun of him or whatever. And so for him, it was just like a heart-rending betrayal. That's how it feels when you're a kid and something happens like that. And so I had to and he started telling him about, I guess he was calling him dumb or something like that. Something where it was really hurtful words. And he didn't want to talk to anybody for a bit. He was in his room. And, my parents were telling me to, give him some space or whatever. But, I got this sort of inspiration to go up and knock on the door and kind of coax him out of his room, and told him, look, when I was a kid, people called me these names. and they didn't even know what they didn't even know what those names meant. They didn't know what these words meant. And it's hurtful. And the best thing I could say is, it's like you might not be able to. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional here because it's something that everybody needs to hear, I think. But
yeah, no, take your time. Take your time.
You have to understand that when you're being made fun of, or people are picking on you, and it's something that's hard to understand, but you have to kind of like understand who means more to you. That person who's making fun of you, or the people who care about you more.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents, your true friends, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, people who love you more take stock in their words more than somebody who just doesn't know you and is just spouting off words. And I just gave him a hug, and I'm like, not many people are going to say this to you, but I'm sorry this is happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a lot of people want to say, sit there and give all the advice in the world, but sometimes what they really want to hear is, I'm sorry this is happening to you.
Yeah, it's understandable.
And I think that helped him, because he was able to kind of like, he hugged me back, and, he got emotional, and, we kind of sort of had a moment together, and it was just like one of the things like, yeah. And then afterwards, I was explained to my parents kind of what happened and whatnot, and what I had to go through growing up. It's like, yeah, I relate to this, because people would call me these names. People would call me dyslexic. People would call me, people would say that I was a nerd. And back then it was an insult. Back now I embrace that term, but back then it was an insult. That was like the last thing you wanted to do. You didn't want to be the uncool one. You didn't want to be the one who was, you didn't want to be the outcast. You didn't want to be the one who was not in the in crowd, You wanted to be socially accepted. No matter how introverted you are, you always there is a desire to be wanted. There is a desire to be. We are sociable creatures. That's how we have survived all this time.
Yeah.
We socialize, we network, we get together, we help each other, we cooperate. And if you don't feel that, then you feel like an outcast, you feel like a failure, and it's like, and when you have somebody that you build a bond of trust with, and then they betray that trust, it's like, yeah, I'm sure if I brought this up with him now, my nephew's now, he was born in 2003, so he's in his 20s now. If I told him about this now, he'd probably laugh it off and not remember it. But when you're a kid, these things matter. You're going to want to build these friendships and these bonds, and kids especially want to be included, associated. That's why you have tag-alongs. That's why you have brothers or sisters who are younger than you who want to do the things that you're doing, because they want to be included. And when they feel rejected, it's a betrayal. It's like somebody who was supposed to take care of me didn't. Somebody dropped the ball. And they're not immediately going to question why. They're not going to sit there and be like, well, maybe if I acted a certain way like this, maybe if I wasn't such a nuisance, maybe if I didn't do certain things and act a certain way, maybe I'd be accepted better. No, they're either going to internalize the problem and be like, man, nobody likes me, or they're going to blame everybody else around them and be like, it's not my fault. that people don't like me. It must be somebody else's fault. Thing is, it's a little bit of both. It is a little bit of both. There are things that we could do, and there are things so that society can do better.
Mm-hmm.
And we take responsibility and accountability for what we can deal with, and we deal with the things that we can, and we leave alone the things that we can't.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to hear it. You have to hear that people relate to you, that and that's what I did. I took the time and I was like, hey, I know what you're going through, and I'm sorry. And I think those words meant a lot more than me just sitting there trying to psychoanalyze the problem.
Yeah.
So, and I think in a lot of ways, when we're dealing with, people in our families that are, behaviors who we don't understand, or, when you're dealing with your younger brother, and sometimes it's sometimes good to just sort of sit there, and even if you have to sit there and play video games with them,
Yeah.
if you sit there and play some Smash Brothers, it's like, okay, you know what? Give me that controller. I'm gonna be Luigi, and I'm gonna kick your butt. Or I'm gonna be Fox. I'm gonna be Fox McCloud or Link, and I'm gonna kick your butt. So, and that's what you got to do. And
as long as you're having fun, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you gotta let him kick your butt. Sometimes you just don't spam that move too often or whatever. Don't do the link spin move, ad nauseum and cheese him to death or something. Just, try to find other ways to fight and not, let him win every now and again. But,
Yeah.
I know that when I was dealing with, when I was growing up, Josh was born when I was 23 years old. My nephew, when he was growing up, he liked to sometimes sit down and watch what I was playing on the TV. And sometimes he wanted to play what I was playing on the TV. Like, one of the things, like, I remember one time he really got into Kingdom Hearts with me. Like, I was playing the game, and he was watching me play it. And then next thing I know, he's building a Keyblade out of a cardboard tube that you get from the wrapping paper. And swinging it around and everything. And he went so far as to, actually build the key grip and everything like that out of the, rolls of, the cardboard tubing and whatnot. It was just really cool. And like, yeah, I influenced him like that. That's something that I introduced him to. And so, yeah, they're going to pick up on things that you do. That's what kids do. And that's how you know that, yeah, when they have something that they want to go to somebody about and talk to them, those are the people they're going to go to.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go to the people who are going to listen to them. Because let me tell you, kids aren't dumb. They know who just like cats. They know who the suckers are.
Yeah.
So they know where to get their emotional response from. They know where the love is.
Yeah.
And anybody who says different don't know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
Exactly.
But, so yeah, I would say with your brother, definitely, it's engage, be with them, sharing his interests every now and again. Do your best to share your interests with him. if he's willing to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And on days where it's hard, where he's having emotional breakdowns, just, you know, try not to get too upset about it, because the worst thing that we can do when somebody's having an emotional breakdown is yelling at them.
Yeah, making
Because
it
when you're having
worse.
yeah, because they're going to pick up on that energy. They're going to, I know that when my niece, when people, when people got upset at that house where she, where my brother-in-law's house, anytime there was somebody who got upset, or even when somebody was like raising their voices too loud, she would pick up on it and she would get upset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, you have to be careful what you say and how you say it. And it's
Yeah.
not always easy, but you get frustrated, but that's life. And we're just gonna have to, another piece of advice is always strive to be better today than you were the day before.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can learn from what we did yesterday, and then you're doing well. No one is
Yeah.
expecting you. No one is expecting you to jump across the river in one go. Take it one little bit of a time. Or as my wife likes to say, you can't eat a whale in one sitting. You do it one bite. You do it one bite at a time. You
That is
know.
actually solid
So,
advice.
so,
And that is fun to actually, one bite at a time.
well, she constantly reminds me of that when I stress about deadlines or big things that we need to take care of, or things that are going to take a while to deal with.
Yeah.
Sometimes you going to get it all done at once and be done with it. Sometimes it's like, you just gonna have to take the time, and haste makes waste, and you gotta plan things out. You gotta do a little bit here, a little bit there, and a little bit here, and a little bit there, and get the job done a lot more efficiently than if you just rushed and try to do everything at once.
Yeah, exactly.
Same as if you're going to, eating a big meal. You have to plan out your meal, and if you eat too fast, you're going to get indigestion. So there's a lot of analogies that you can make there, and if there's any analogies I know, it's food, because I grew up in a family where food was a big thing. So
Yeah.
my wife was able to communicate that with me in a way that I would understand. That's one of her strong suits, is that she knows she has the ability to pick up whatever, pick up. She's able to kind of like she kind of can like adapt her thinking to help people out. She's able to like know the things that I like or whatever, and is able to like, trying to think about what I'm saying here. Come up with the appropriate metaphor, basically. She's able to like
Yeah.
come up with metaphors that are helpful, because she'll be like, I don't know, when I'm dealing with like a big problem, she's like, okay, well, you're an artist. What do you do when you start? It's like, well, you start with the basics. You do the fundamentals. You draw your crosshairs. You break it down into shapes. Well, when you're dealing with a problem, you break it down.
Mm-hmm.
You break it down into its fundamentals. You look at it like this, 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 this. This is the core of the problem. You break it down, and that's how you kind of deal with it. You don't try to deal with it all at once. You don't try to like, you're not a human printer. You don't draw the drawing out. You kind of shape it as you go. And that's kind of how I deal with problems. You just have to break them down.
Yeah.
You have to break them down. You break them down. At the end, you're better planned for it than if you just tried to do it and tackle it all at once.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's kind of just one of the things that she's taught me over the years, and it kind of, you know, things like that stick with me because you know, I'm an artist and that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, I hear you.
So now the kids want attention.
Yeah, they want attention. They want me to give them their last meal of the day here.
Yeah, I get it.
Anybody else have anything to add or questions to ask or?
Not at all, actually. This was a very insightful conversation we had, honestly. And again, I thank you for sharing a lot of stuff you shared because, again, even though, yeah, we're strangers on the internet and, you know, it's not easy to trust somebody with this kind of knowledge or anything else, but I am indeed grateful for you sharing all the story that you had, all your life story, and the people that you have met and, you know, you live with, and, you know, your upcomings, including like your cats and your wife, and then, you know, your relatives as well. Like, it was a fascinating session for me to learn your life story and, you know, and how could I word this without like sounding rude or anything else? Because I don't mean to be rude or anything else, but like, you know, like you are now a more interesting person than I first thought.
Well, that's kind of how it works, really. You
Mhm.
get to know somebody more. I think.
Yeah,
I
usually happens.
I certainly didn't set out today to, you know, thinking that I was going to be talking about my life story. I thought this was going to be just one of those podcasts where we're just making random jokes and stuff. But
Well, no,
this one is
Listen,
definitely
this podcast doubles as therapy. You know?
yeah, it's to talk out with, like, you know, talk out what you feel and everything else. So yeah, it's not usually just jokes
Yeah.
or anything other than shenanigans or anything else. Like, you know, if you have
Yeah.
something to say, then yeah, go ahead and spill it.
I certainly wasn't expecting to, you know, but I guess in a lot of ways, I think talking stories and stuff is part of just what I do when I talk to people in general. So
Mhm.
this is, I guess this is just, I guess I should just consider this just a regular conversation for myself because I just, yeah, I do talk stories. It's how I think. I think you can learn a lot from stories.
Yeah.
I think you can communicate better when you communicate in stories because at the very least for me, I know that when I'm dealing with ADHD and whatnot, if I don't have a focus, I'm all over the place.
Yeah, it usually is.
I can ramble, I can rant about things, you know, I could be talking about one thing and, you know, I could be talking about, you know, one moment I'll be talking about flowers and the next minute I'll be talking about, you know, kangaroos for some reason. I don't know, rabbits.
It happens. It's very amusing.
It's just, yeah, you have, you know, so talking about stories allows me to, you know, I like storytelling. I like to draw and I like to write stories and I like to come up with stories. My wife and I are creative people, so it's definitely one way to help me focus my mind is when I can talk about stories because I can carry on conversations better, and it's even better when I can relate those stories to other people's experiences.
Yeah.
You know, and if any way I've helped people by having them listen to it and listen to these experiences, then that's even better because, you know, I like to help people whenever I can. It gives me a good feeling, you know, so You know, and it allows me to think that to myself that I've gone through these experiences for a reason. You
Yeah.
know, that there isn't just, I wasn't suffering for no good reason, for lack of a better phrase. You know, it's like, yeah, I've gone through these experiences, and it's not just because somebody wanted to hear me, to see me suffer. You know, there was a reason for this,
Yeah.
and um, you know, there's two different ways that somebody can come out of a situation where they get picked on or whatever most of their lives, and you can either come away as a bully yourself, or you can gain more empathy for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I like to try to be on the latter side of that, not the former. You know, I don't want to be that person who takes the abuse that I was given and hand it out to everybody
Mhm.
else around me.
No, yeah,
You
that's
know,
understandable.
I want to empathize with people and be like, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna be that person. I'm not your enemy. You know, I know where you've been, walked in your shoes. I've seen these things and I've overcome them mostly. You know, there are times there are times when I backtrack, but you know, so if I can help somebody through with these experiences, it's good for everybody. I think.
Yeah, and that's very noble of you to do so.
Well, it's definitely one way that I was raised too. You know, growing up, I had parents who were very much, you know, trying to make me a better person. They didn't want me to be that. You know, I'm sure my parents would not have wanted me to be a bully.
No, yeah,
So
for sure. No one wants to be a bully.
so, and um, I also know that when it comes to social media, I kind of made up my mind to be a little bit more positive on social media, because I want social media to be better, and I figured that if there has to be a change, then I have to be that change.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to be that person who's encouraging and not someone who's going to put somebody down over the smallest, stupidest things. Like, you
Yeah.
know, like I said, I'm in a Transformer group, and there's people who are going to be out there like, wow, you collect these figures, and you like the movies, and you like the Michael Bay films. And it's like, yeah, he likes the Michael Bay films. I don't care for the Michael Bay films, but if he grew up with them, that's his childhood. Shut up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what he likes. That's what he grew up with. There are characters that resonate with him. There's things that people experience in their lives, things that are resonating with people. Like, I will acknowledge this. When you have a character like Optimus Prime on the screen and he's being a hero, or, you know, and saying wise things, somebody's going to take that and they're going to incorporate that into their lives.
Yeah.
And um, Peter Cullen actually has a story where he was auditioning to be Optimus Prime. And at the time, he had no idea where this was going to go. It was just a job. And this
Mm-hmm.
was back in 1984, I think. Yeah, 1984 or 1985. And he had a brother named Larry who was he was former military. I think he was a colonel. I think. I don't know. I don't know for certain. Captain or a colonel.
Yeah.
And he told him, like, Peter, where are you going? He's like, oh, I'm going to an audition. Because Peter Cullen did a lot of voice work before. He was actually the first voice of Mario
Oh.
ever. Like, there was a thing
Wow.
that was like, there was like a show on TV that was something like, I don't know, some Nintendo property or some video game property, where it was like before the Super Mario Super Show was something where Mario was involved, and he was the first voice of Mario for this.
Whoa.
And he also like introduced people on the Sonny and Cher shows, like now coming from a theater, the Sonny and Cher show, things like that. And so he was auditioning for this role. He was also the voice of Venger from the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon as well.
Oh, sick.
Yeah. He also did the voice of Monterey Jack and Chippendale Rescue Ranger. He did voice work for DuckTales. He was like on the Winnie the Pooh cartoon, not the movie, but the cartoon. He was Eeyore. So there's different things that he's done. But he was auditioning for this, and he's like, "So where are you going?" And he's like, "I'm auditioning." He's like, "Well, what are you auditioning for?" He's like, "I'm auditioning to be a truck." He's like, "I'm going to be a
Yeah, I'm
hero.
gonna be a truck.
I'm gonna be." So he's like, described what the character was, and his brother gave him advice, and he's like, "Look, if you're gonna be a hero, be the kind of hero that doesn't go around yelling all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Be a hero who is strong enough to be gentle." And he took that with him to that audition. And that was what resonated with a lot of fans of the original G1 cartoon, was that he didn't go around like, yeah, there were like moments or whatever, and certainly more in the Michael Bay films where he was saying things or whatnot that they wanted him to say because it was a job, but Optimus Prime to a lot of people is someone who is strong enough to be gentle, like a father figure.
Yeah.
And that's what resonated with a lot of the fans then. And basically, he was emulating his brother through that performance. So that when you hear Optimus Prime on the screen, he's actually being his brother there.
Oh.
And so that's the character that he wanted to bring to that role. And he would say things that were wise and meaningful, and that's what people wanted to hear back then. And even if you were a kid and you didn't understand it then, you watch it later or you remember it later down in the line, and you're like, yeah, that stuck with me. I don't know why it stuck with me, but it stuck with me. And I'm trying to think of an exact situation where that did, but I think one of the lines that stuck with me, it's actually from the second Michael Bay film, The Revenge of the Fallen. It's like, I'm not all that crazy about the entire film, but moments of Optimus Prime says wise things, and one of the lines he says is, and talking in Optimus Prime's voice, life rarely calls upon us at a moment of our choosing. It's like, yeah, or destiny rarely calls upon us in a moment of our choosing. It's like there are times in our lives where things are going to happen and we don't choose to do them. And also resonates with me because I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, and of course Gandalf's phrases, it's like,
Yeah, I get you.
Gandalf talks about how, not all, when Frodo's like, I wish the ring never came to me, and Gandalf is like, so do all of us who live to see such times, but it's not for us to decide. What we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. And that comes straight from Tolkien, which was translated into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So Tolkien is another of those people that if I ever had a chance to meet, yeah, he's passed on, but if I ever wanted to meet somebody in history, it was him. I'd like to sit down and talk with that guy and ask him questions, because he left a lot of things unanswered or untold, and he just didn't have the time in his life to do everything.
Yeah.
Tolkien set out to make a mythology. He was writing the Silmarillion at the time, and he wrote a book about hobbits. And then, he wanted to continue with his mythological work. because he believed England at the time didn't have a mythology. Like, they had things they borrowed from other people's mythologies, like, King Arthur was more French than English. He wanted something that was uniquely English, and a lot of the old mythologies that were there at the time, the sagas like Beowulf and the Kalevala or whatever, all these different things, all that kind of like died out when the Norman invasion happened in England, and England became more Frenchified, as it was called, as it was said. And so he wanted to create a mythology, and that's what he set out to do. So he created a deeper work that it was eventually called the Silmarillion. And it was, if you were to look at the iceberg, Lord of the Rings is the very tip of that iceberg. The Silmarillion is like the rest of it.
Oh.
That you don't normally get to see. Everything that happened in the history of that world happened in the Silmarillion from the very beginning, the creation of that world up to that point where they're taking the ring to Mordor. And Tolkien wanted to write that, but after The Hobbit, people were clamoring for a sequel. They wanted more to the Hobbit story. So he's like, okay, I'll give you a sequel to the Hobbits. But instead of writing another book where he's like, in a hole in the ground there lived another Hobbit or whatever, it was this ring, this seemingly innocuous ring that Bilbo found in the cave that had no real importance outside of helping Bilbo do his work, suddenly became even more important. And this laid the groundwork for The Lord of the Rings. And by the time he finished publishing that, he was already probably in his 60s at the time.
Yeah.
And so everything that he wanted to create was in note form. He wrote notes constantly. He was writing them when he was fighting in World War I. He was writing them all the time. He thought about that stuff when he was writing The Lord of the Rings because it was constantly in the background. And it formed all the stuff that The Lord of the Rings hints at is in that larger work. And finally, he was trying to write that, but, things happened and he didn't finish. And his son, Christopher, actually had to pick it up from his father afterwards and kind of like consolidate everything together. But even there, it's like, as much as Christopher knew his father and everything, he wasn't his father. He didn't think like, he might not have always thought like his father did. And that's not an insult to Christopher. It's just, sometimes you kind of wish that Tolkien had the chance to write that because there were so many things he could have written about.
Yeah.
And a lot of people asked about things that happened in The Lord of the Rings and the reasons why certain things happen. A lot of those reasons can be answered if you read all the other stuff that he published. And a lot of people don't think about when they read the books or they watch the movies. And it's like, it's kind of sad. So if I ever get the chance to like sit down with Tolkien, if there is an afterlife, and I get the chance to sit down with him, we're like, look, I have a list of things I want to get through, and you're going to sit down and listen. I'm going to ask these questions whether you want them or not. And we have nothing but time right now. We're in the eternities right now. So you're gonna have to. We have nothing but time. So, So I'm deeply into like writing and creating stuff, and my wife is into things like that too. We both like fantasy. We both like anime. We both like storytelling. She has her characters. I have my characters that we like to talk about, and we collaborate on and brainstorm things like that. So we're, I like to consider us a creative couple. That's how I introduce myself on Discord. When I go to the introduction page, I'm like, my wife and I are a creative couple. Any creative ideas that I have are usually things that I've talked about with her for hours and hours, and that's how we spent a lot of our time talking on the phone. We talked about, characters, and talk about a character. We'd go on and flesh him out, talk about his backstory, and come up with one, and, draw him if we can, and, So there's just so much that we go through, and it's like, yeah, we are influenced by what Tolkien did. That was writing out these lengthy backstories on things that you never really get to see in the writing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's fun for us to do that, and maybe that makes us a little bit neurologically atypical as well. But hey, aren't we all just a little bit?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I'm gonna have to cut this short here because I think I have to get ready for work here. Getting a little late. I just realized.
Oh yeah.
We should transition over to a stream actually.
To a Yana stream.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Let me link that.
Yeah.
Well, even though I cannot raid, I still can link the stream to her. So let me link that in the chat. So that way, I cannot raid, but I can still send a link and people can still see it. But yeah, while I'm doing that though, thank you, Robin, thank you, Lion, thank you, Ayana. Even though you're not here, but you're streaming. If you're hearing this, thank you, I appreciate you.
Yeah. Sorry that I did all the talking, guys. Maybe next time I'll let you guys talk about your backstories.
It's fine. We like the stories. We like listening.
Yeah, I love to listen and I love to actually, I love to listen. Despite the fact that I'm quiet and everything else, I'm just very interested because, again, like, you and your wife are literally a match made in heaven, and I hope that you both live the happiest life that the world can give you. I mean, yeah, it's peaceful.
Well, I consider myself lucky to have found her because I know a lot of people that there are people who are, struggling to find relationships, and they, some people think that relationships are going to solve their problems, and to them I say you kind of have to resolve the problems while you get into a relationship, or solve them while you're dealing with the relationship. Because relationships are not going to solve the problem. You're just going to take your problems into the relationship.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, they will solve some of your problem. They'll solve the loneliness problem, and you'll have an outlet to talk about your problems with. But nothing's going to be magically solved. Nothing ever is going to be magically solved for you.
Yeah.
But it does. I will say that having a relationship is good. To have somebody to talk to about your problems with, but it's not going to magically solve all your problems. Like, they don't disappear the moment you say I do. That's a lot of people I find that somebody was talking about in the Discord, like, man, if only I could find a fiance. I'm like, well, first you have to date her first.
Yeah, or be friends with her first.
And be friends with her first before that.
Yeah.
And then you have to get to know somebody, and there's a whole process, and the process doesn't end. And happily ever after doesn't happen when you say I do either. You don't.
Yeah, you're facing the problems.
The journey goes on. In fact, the journey gets harder from there. And sometimes you're holding hands. And sometimes you hold hands, and sometimes you're clinging to that hand for dear life.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, don't think that your problems are magically going to be solved and happily ever after happens. And it's like, since life is not a Disney movie, you have to, you're gonna have to deal with what comes after marriage, and that is life. And it's like. So yeah, we still deal with our problems. We have our issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. We have friendships that we still have that we deal with. We have our struggles. We're still trying to find work for ourselves. We're trying to find a better living accommodation for ourselves, and cats sometimes have problems, health issues, whatnot.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like that's life, and you know, I'm like I said, I'm lucky to have her in my life. Because I know that there are people who are still trying to find someone, and unfortunately, not everybody's going to find somebody. You know, we kind of believe, I don't know, trying to leave religion out of it as much as I can, but we kind of believe in our religion that sometimes love doesn't. Sometimes you don't find somebody in this life. Sometimes we find it in the life after.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you believe in that or not, I don't know. I'm not going to force it down your throat. But you know, I think that's kind of got to paint a more hopeful picture. But at the very least, I will say that you might not find somebody, but that doesn't mean you stop trying. Because at the very least, you can meet friends along the way, and
Yeah.
those friendships can take turns that you don't expect. You know. But anyway, I gotta get going.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
All right.
So, yeah, we held you off. We held you off. Held you on a little bit longer. So I appreciate that. But yeah, thank you everybody. Thank you so much, and thank you guys. Hopefully we can do this next week, and yeah, and hopefully we get a lot more fun as well. This is fun too. This is fun, but there's always such thing as more fun.
Yeah. Well, you guys have a good one now.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Yep.